Welcome to the Foul Play YouTube channel. Somebody's not muted. Welcome to the Foul Play YouTube channel. Foul Play YouTube channel. Rhonda, I think that's you.
No,
Welcome to the Foul Play YouTube channel.
I think
Foul
it's
Play
Doc.
YouTube channel.
Doc.
Welcome to the Foul Play YouTube channel. Fiction Conviction. Rebuttal to Cam, Episode 9, Part 1. Welcome to the Foul Play YouTube channel. Fiction Conviction. Rebuttal to Cam, Episode 9, Part 1.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to the Foul Play YouTube channel.
Now,
Fiction
Somebody
Conviction.
has to turn down mute their YouTube.
Cam, Episode 9, Part 1.
Someone's got their
Welcome
microphone.
to the Foul Play YouTube channel.
Now,
It's you, Doc. Turn down their. It's you or Jack.
Cam, Episode 9, Part 1. Welcome to the Foul Play YouTube channel.
It just keeps going. What's going on?
I have no idea.
Jack or Doc has to mute their YouTube.
My YouTube muted.
Okay,
Mine's
mine's muted.
I have no idea.
Doc. Jack or Doc has to mute their YouTube.
yeah, my YouTube,
My YouTube muted.
my YouTube is muted.
That's mine's muted.
I have no idea.
Doc. Jack or Doc has to mute their YouTube.
Yeah, my YouTube,
My YouTube muted.
my YouTube is muted.
That's mine's muted.
I have no idea.
Jack or Doc has to mute their YouTube.
Yeah, my
YouTube muted.
YouTube is muted.
That's mine's muted.
I have
Help! We're in the Twilight Zone.
Mute their YouTube.
Yeah,
my YouTube muted.
YouTube is muted.
That's mine's muted.
Help! We're in the Twilight Zone.
no idea what's happening here. No idea what's happening here. Yep, it did it when you unmuted, Doc. I'm not sure. Maybe go out and come back in.
Me?
Yeah. No idea what's happening here. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Yep, something on Doc's end is not copacetic. So anyway, all right. Tonight we're going to be looking at episode 9. This is about Brendan, but there's a lot of other elements in this episode as well, and we're going to be talking about that. Here's Doc back. Let's see if he can. Yep, it's definitely on your end, Doc, because the echo stopped.
How about now?
Seems to be corrected.
Are we good?
Whatever it was, yeah, whatever StreamYard or whatever was going on. Yeah, it seemed to be good now. So anyway, I was just saying that, episode 9 is about Brendan, but there's a lot of other elements involved here, right?
Correct.
And we're going to go through, we're not going to cover every element. We're going to go through a lot of them though. So it's not going to be pleasant. And, we're going to be fair. We got to be fair, right?
Correct.
So anyway, Doc, I'm going to stop and let you take over.
Is the audio good now?
Audio's good.
I think we all turned Irish there.
Yeah,
Jack,
definitely.
we can only see the top of your head and occasionally your eyebrows.
I know that. That's on purpose, so I can show the compressor with no bullet.
The compressor.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
All right, guys. Well, look, I think we better make a start. Look, thank you so much, Jack61, for the introduction. I don't know what happened there, but welcome, everyone. It's great to be here. And I'm Dr. Silkman, and I'm from the Foul Play team. As Jack61 stated, what we're going to be doing is continuing our series, our rebuttal to Convicting a Murderer. And we're going to be commencing on episode number 9, which is entitled Manipulating Brendan. So today, hopefully, we'll be doing part 1. And tomorrow in the open mic section or session, we'll be hopefully continuing in part 2. So the way we're going to approach this is actually very, very simple and straightforward. Susan, and myself and others have put together a series of little clips from episode 9. So we're going to play those clips, and I think Jack 61 has also got another clip that he wants to discuss as well. So we're going to play those clips from Convicting a Murderer, episode 9, and we're going to comment on them. But before we do that, I just want to say a couple of points. First of all, what we discuss here collectively as a group are our own personal opinions. That's the important thing. If you don't agree with our opinions, that's cool. That's fine. We're not going to argue with anybody. If you come on and chat or Discord with your own ideas and opinions, that's fine. We're here to give a rebuttal to what we have seen in Convicting a Murderer. And I think we're in a really good position to do that. Several members of our team, the Foul Play team, about 3 years ago, right, Jack 61, we were interviewed by Brenda Schuller for many hours. And some of us, including myself, I know that Susan and Jack 61 and others have appeared on Convicting a Murderer. So we believe that we have a right to rebut the series. Now, as you know, guys, Convicting a Murderer was really an anti-documentary to Making a Murderer. The basic tenet of Convicting a Murderer was that all of us who believe in the innocence of both Stephen and Brendan, we've all been brainwashed, right? We've been manipulated by the filmmakers, by Netflix, by the documentary itself. And we've stated, and also many people in chat as well, you guys have also been manipulated. And you could tell by how strong Convicting a Murderer was, the message that they're trying to send, basically, wake up, guys, you've all been manipulated, you've been brainwashed, you're part of a cult, wake up, guys. So at the Foul Play team, we have spent at least 5 years, and some of us even more, going back to the original documents and material. We haven't relied on any documentary, on anyone to make up our own minds. Through the years that I've known this group, as well as many others, we've had a huge amount of discussions. We've done hundreds and hundreds of podcasts, and I've been very lucky and to be part of this team. And also we've had discussions with people that believe that they're guilty. That's both Stephen and Brendan. And for the most part, the conversations have been very, very civil. So what we want to do here today, guys, before we start, is I just want to say that everyone has a right to draw their own conclusions, no matter what side of the fence that you sit on. If you believe that Stephen and or Brendan Dassey are guilty, kudos to you. Your journey is over. If you believe in what the state have found, that both Stephen and Brendan are guilty, again, your journey is over. There's nothing more you need to do. What we do here on the Foul Play team, we actually do search for the truth. And don't worry, we get barraged with a lot of questions. Some we can answer, some we can't. And we are looking for the truth. If we feel that at any stage we become convinced of their guilt, both Stephen and Brendan, of murdering Teresa Halbach, we will accept it. We will accept it. But I think at this stage, it's very important to keep an open mind, go to the original sources, ask the deep questions, and try to find the answers, right? Don't have a closed mind. And I think in this case, this particular case is very, very unusual. And the reason why it's unusual is because Stephen Avery had a long history with law enforcement. especially the MTSO. And as you know, guys, that history just doesn't evaporate. At the time of Stephen Avery's arrest, as you guys know, he was involved in a very large civil lawsuit with Kaseric, Vogel, and the MTSO. And potentially he could have claimed up to $36 million. Now, it's very likely that Stephen would not have received anywhere near $36 million. I don't think that's the point. The point is not so much the recompense, but the mere fact that those who were involved in setting Stephen up for the brutal assault on Penny Bernstein back in 1985, they were going to pay a very valuable lesson, and a very valuable lesson was going to be learned. Now, as we know, just before Kaseric and Vogel were about to be deposed, Teresa Halbach ends up being missing. On November the 5th, her car is found, her vehicle is found on Avery salvage yard. All hell breaks loose, right? So now we've got this counter-documentary, Convicting the Murderer, has looked at various elements of the case. So today, guys, without further ado, we're going to look at episode number 9. But before we do, guys, first of all, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your support, you asking us tough questions, and that's exactly what we want. We want to have a civil debate, and so we can get to the truth, good, bad, or otherwise. But I want to introduce you guys, especially for the new ones, to our panel, and everyone here. I'm very, very proud to be part of this team. First of all, I'd like to introduce Jack 61. Jack 61, welcome, good sir. How are you coming along?
I'm doing good. I'd like to welcome everyone, obviously, here and the panel and the live chat. Again, we got looks like a pretty good crowd, and it's growing as we're talking here, kind of getting our in the intro. And I'd like to welcome everyone. If you don't want to chat, talk in the the live chat, that's fine. There's always lurkers, and that's fine. Not a problem with that. Just to add a little bit to what Doc was talking about, looking at this case, these two cases, because it's not just one. Because without Brendan, Stephen's case would be different, and that's a fact. That's absolute fact. But I think the drive for me really has always been about due process and the integrity of this investigation, and the integrity that leads to the integrity of the trial. Anyone that doesn't know, these investigators do their work in the pretrial, that time period, whatever it may be. This was like 15, 16 months, and then trial. Everything that happens there somehow is supposed to unfold in the trial, but it didn't. There were so many problems in this time frame. For me, personally, that's what I see. That's what I've found, that I don't have answers for. And I know there's always questions with complicated cases. I think we all have seen that, right? So,
Correct.
But this case is an exception for me, and Brendan's too. It's a real exception, and probably the only one that I know there are other ones out there that I'm unaware of, but Daniel Holtzclife's case is another one that has so many questions. You look back and you're thinking, what the hell, man? How did this happen in our criminal justice system that's supposed to be about the truth? We're not there. There's still so much we can't get. We have to, and we're forced to, well, we don't have to do it, but we do. We're forced to make these speculative leaps based on the end result of an event, that we don't have some of the middle or some of the beginning or some of the towards the end.
Of the pieces.
That's right.
Correct.
That's right. Exactly. So for me, that's my drive. Anything that we can do to gather information to help Zellner, now Ryder and Drizzen, whatever that may be for Brendan, that's what I'm here for. And the truth.
Correct. At the end of the day, guys, it is very important to realize that we are providing an opinion, and people need to calm down. We're not legal representatives.
No.
We represent Stephen Avery nor Brendan Dassey. They have their own professional attorneys. We're here to support them. We're there here to support them. And I think that's a very important point. No matter what we come up here in the podcast, on Discord or on X, Twitter, it matters nothing. The idea is that material has to be presented in front of a judge and done properly in a legal aspect. We can debate until the cows come home, literally. It's not going to make any difference. The important thing, though, is that the big question I ask is, did Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey receive fair trials? That's the big question. If they haven't received a fair trial, then I do believe they need to have brand new trials, get in front of a judge. I mean, remember here, we're discussing many different aspects of the case, but it matters nothing. It's all got to be done in a legal fashion. All right. Thank you so much, Jack61. The next person I'd like to introduce is Just Rhonda. Welcome, Just Rhonda.
Thank you, Doc. And it's good to be here. And before I say anything, I just want to say Happy Veterans Day to my father, who served in the United States Army and passed away 2 years ago, and to my son, who is still serving in the United States Army National Guard, and thank them and every other service member for their service. I just want to say that. Yeah, just, you know, I that's what got me into all of this wrongful conviction stuff to start with, is trying to find the truth, whether I believe somebody was guilty or innocent or not. I couldn't possibly decide that without doing research and listening to what others had to say, or you know, had to offer to look at and to review for myself. So that's what I'm here for. That's what we're here for, just to find the truth. And, you know, if the truth has, if the correct people aren't already in prison, then Teresa hasn't had justice. And I guess I will just say I don't believe Teresa has had justice yet. So, and then, you know, of course, as Jack mentioned, my advocacy for Stephen and Brendan turned into advocacy for Daniel Holtzclaw. So
yes,
it's, you know, three big cases that really have had an impact on me, on my life. And I mean that literally, like, not just, you know, I'm not just saying that with a blasé attitude. It's like, seriously, I mean, we put a lot of time and thought and investigation and reading and listening into all of these cases. Not because we don't have anything better to do, which I hear a lot. Don't you have anything better to do with your time? This is my better. This is the best this is what I want to do. And what's wrong with that? What's wrong with trying to find truth and justice for somebody?
Correct. And your effort and your passion in all the cases that you do is phenomenal and first rate. And I get a lot of inspiration from you, as everyone here on the panel. And look, guys, sorry, Jack61.
And Cherie and Kay too. They put a
Exactly.
huge amount of effort. They put a huge amount of effort into that.
It's not just me.
Yes,
my hat's off to them.
Correct, 100% correct. You know, at the end of the day, like I said before, we're enthusiasts. We believe in seeking true justice, and people got to understand, because a lot of people get very, very heated up and very excited. Both Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey are in prison. They're not free. They're not on the streets. They're not at Las Vegas playing the casino, making millions of dollars off book deals or film deals. They're doing hard time. And if nothing happens, if there's no form of intervention or a new trial, both men are going to die in prison. Now, if they're guilty, they deserve their punishment. But if they're not guilty, they deserve a fair trial. And I think that's not being unreasonable. But you can see that there is a big, big resistance against Kathleen Zellner. There's quite clearly an anti-Zellner feeling that's going throughout the community. You can tell there's been a big change and a big turn. There's a lot of people who are very vocal against Kathleen Zellner. The same thing happened against her when she did all her wrongful conviction cases. Just have a look at the Ryan Ferguson case, right? She's hearing exactly the same things, the same blowback, right? If the state has got nothing to be concerned about in terms of the guilt of Stephen, then I urge the state, release all the forensic evidence, release the RAV4, re-extract A23, MVAC the vehicle, MVAC the evidence, find out who's there, who's not there. You've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear, right? It's Kathleen Zellner herself who's put up close approaching $1 million. Is that about
That's
right?
That's right. 900,000+ last I heard.
Yeah.
But release all the photographs, all the audio.
Correct.
Give us a clean copy of Earl's interview on November 9th. What are you withholding? If it's so straightforward. And Brent, yep, that's right. And Brendan.
Yep. So it's really disingenuous. And don't worry, we'll start the podcast in a second. It's really disingenuous when you watch Convicting a Murderer and they show photos of crime scenes. And Jack and I and everybody else is looking at each other going, have you seen that picture? No.
Yeah. Where the hell did that come from? Because we can't get it.
Where did that come from? And when we were interviewed by Brenda Schuller 3 years ago, she had and you've seen it, she had all her documents in front of her. She wasn't willing to share any of them with us, right? We had to actually FOIA our own documents that she already had. So when you don't have an even playing field and you have documents, photographs, audio, video that we don't have, then that's not fair, right? So it's rather remarkable that if the state, as I said, if the state has got nothing to hide, nothing to worry about, hand over the evidence. Get it independently checked. The next is Susan. Susan, welcome. Sorry for the rambling.
Hey, Doc. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Had a beautiful fall day here today. I took a long drive and it was just wonderful. So I'm ready to get to it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Susan. And next we have, I don't recall. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Fiction Conviction.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, look, what we're going to do, we're going to make a start and we're going to play a series of clips. They're short clips, a couple of minutes each. And Susan and I and others, we went through the entire episode 9. And if we don't finish today, guys, do not worry. We'll continue in open mic and keep the discussion going. Put your questions in chat. But guys, the only thing we ask is try and ask only one question at a time, and we'll try and do it live on the program. So, Jack61, yes, what would you like to say?
Well, first, please put a Q, and if you have a question, put a Q so the mods can see it and it can get flagged so we can come back and answer your questions. But before we jump into episode 9, I want to play a clip for everyone. And I only do this for rebuttal reasons because I don't really understand why this occurred. This is a short clip that's on YouTube. It's not mine. It's from, what's the name of these guys again?
Smokescreen.
Smokescreen.
Yeah.
Smokescreen.
This is part of Yeah, Brenda Schuler did a 2-hour, 40-minute or something interview that I haven't had a chance to watch yet with these guys, and that's great. That's fine. But there was a question that one of these guys asked in this clip. You're going to see it about photos from October 31st, and how do they know? And I want you to listen to what Brenda says, and we'll get to all of it. It's a short clip. It's not going to take long. But I have real issues with it. So let me get this on screen and we'll play it. All right, here we go.
All right, I got to ask a stupid question. It's 2005, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
How was the cloud around? Like, how do you know when the pictures were taken on the 31st?
That's not a dumb question at all. That's a really good question. The camera was burnt, but the card wasn't.
Okay.
I paused it right there for a reason. She said the camera was burned, but the card wasn't. And I'm going to tell you right now, she knows better than that. Unless she's got access to something that we don't. It's just that simple. And I'm not trying to attack Brenda in any way, but I don't understand why she would say that. The camera was burned, but the card wasn't. Where does that come from? And she did kind of correct herself in this next little part. I can't back it up. It's a clip, and you can't do that. I'm going to play it here in a second, but I just want to get some reaction from those that are, in the live chat, you guys too. Because, look, I would love to have seen anything like that, and it should have been turned over if that's indeed what happened. But I'm sorry. Anybody?
Well, I think from what I can see in chat that she was able to correct herself in regards to the card. There was an SD card at the back of the RAV4.
Correct.
I believe that they did print out the pictures from it.
They did, and we have them.
Yep. And from the SD card that was presumably present in Teresa Horbach's camera that she used to take photographs of the vehicles on the 31st, there are none. There are no photographs. Anyway.
No, that card was burned up just like the camera. Go ahead.
But the guy's question was, how do they know when the photos were taken on the 31st?
That's right.
That's what he asked her.
That's exactly right. And her reply was, well, that's a great question.
I do think she cleared it up later, but it's just odd that she answered it that way. I don't know.
Well, I mean, to me, she should have immediately said the card and the camera were burned up. We don't have that. That, to me, is the correct answer. And not have to make a correction to something she knows she just said is not true at all. She knows the case as well as we do. And it just irritates me that it happened. But I know that Brenda knows better than that.
And I'll just point out again, Jamie, he asked her the pictures from the 31st.
He did. I'll let it play again. There's another part of this too, because he asked also about basically a wireless connection. Was the cloud around back then? And there may have been some form of Google, the Google Drive back then. I don't know. I didn't use it, so I can't truly answer that question. But to my knowledge, and I have looked, her camera did not have a wireless connection. She also had a Palm Pilot in her car, or she owned a Palm Pilot, and they allegedly found the remains of that. And you could get a module you could add to the Palm Pilot to create a wireless connection. But then again, you have to understand that even if they had a wireless card, that module if she had that, she's going to have to find a router somewhere she's going to be able to connect to. That again creates another problem, right?
Correct.
To upload.
Correct.
So anyway.
If any of those photographs were actually uploaded, there would have been evidence of it. I just think it was just a mistimed answer by Brenda. I don't think she meant anything nefarious by it, but it goes to show how people closely listen to what everybody says in an interview, and
well,
it's
you get caught up in the moment, and you utter something that you kind of regret, and that could be true. I don't know. I'm just understanding this interview that she would say that, knowing that she knows the case as well as we do. So anyway, let me play the rest of this again, and then I'll let it ask one more time, and then we'll end it and move on. I don't want to take too much time with this. It just bothered me that this happened. Anyway, let me finish this up.
Okay.
She takes her picture, she has to give that to them, to Auto Trader.
Yeah, let me clear that up too. How that works is that Teresa would do her appointments, make a list. Picture 1 is this, picture 2, and she would mail that and the SD card to Auto Trader. Have her name on the SD card, like we saw in the back of the RAV, so they know which photographer it belongs to, and they get recycled, right? That's how that works. She didn't drive to the office and hand that shit off. That's not what happened at all. It was a mail thing. So anyway, here we go.
So all of her other
Little.
memory cards, they already had them put it in their computer, and it would have had the metadata from her card from the camera. So her camera was burned, but the card that had the pictures from her prior appointments was already uploaded in their computer.
Okay. All right.
See how she cleared it up there? Prior appointments.
Correct. Yep, correct.
So anyway, all right, I'm gonna stop the screen right here, and then you can talk. Thank everybody for allowing me the time to bitch about that, but
correct. No, we're not insinuating anything nefarious from Brenda. I mean, the reality is, it's actually not very easy to do a podcast and have an interview and be asked a lot of questions all at once and give your responses. It actually is very easy to sit behind your keyboard and complain nonstop. And don't worry, I've done exactly the same thing myself.
I'd like to answer Jamie's question here, or his statement. He says, "Why make it any issue except to try to discredit where it doesn't belong? Be better, Jack." Well, my whole point is that I didn't make the statement. She did, and she made it to a lot of people. I mean, these guys got thousands of followers, and a lot of them, I'm sure, are watching because Brenda was on there, and she's a huge part of, convicting a murderer. So her words mean something. They matter, just like, any of us. We try not to say anything wrong, give out misinformation, and I know that Brenda knows that that card from her camera didn't survive. It would have had other photos on it that we don't have, and meaning the Schmidt photo, the van photo, and potentially the zipper photo. So I think it's important to, call it what it is. I don't know if she just got caught up in the moment and got tongue-tied, like Doc said. That could be. I don't mean anything personally against Brenda. I'm just saying that she knows the case as well as we do. That's all I'm saying.
Now, Jamie, I'm going to give you a personal warning. If you continue like this, we're going to beat you out. We're not manipulating anybody.
Absolutely not.
Jack 61 played it as it is, and we're giving a personal opinion. We're not insinuating anything, right? Please don't try and hijack our show. You're quite welcome to join any other group you want, do podcasts, and we'll come on your show, right? I think we're being fair. What do you think, guys? I think we are being fair.
I think it's a fair question. I mean, it struck when I saw it. I'm like, wait, what the hell, man? She knows better than that. She does. So I think it's an honest question. Whether it's nefarious or not, I'm not saying that at all.
Correct.
So anyway.
Well, we've started the show with a bang.
Okay, I'm just going to say, Jamie, one more attack on Jack or anybody else on the panel. We're going to have to definitely at least put you in a timeout, because that's not okay to come on our show and attack the panel like that. Of course I'm going to defend. We are going to defend Jack.
Hey, I just
So
played the
it's-
call as it is. I just played it,
Correct.
and knowing what I know and knowing what she knows, I question it. And there's something wrong with that?
There is
I don't
nothing wrong with that.
I don't know what to say. If I'd have said something, if I say something incorrect and somebody questions me on it and I'm wrong, you damn straight I'm gonna say, I said something wrong and move on. Please forgive me and correct my statement immediately.
I have a question, Jack.
Yep.
Did you watch the entire interview?
Oh, please.
No.
No?
I said I haven't watched the entire interview. No, I haven't.
Stop it, Jamie. Stop it. Sorry.
Yeah, let's do what you got to do and move on, Doc.
I'm just saying that someone in here in chat said that later she clarified that those pictures, she wasn't talking about the 31st.
Correct.
So.
Correct. And
Well,
if I could just add, this really summarizes the big issue when you have a debate, or do a live debate. To me, to be completely honest, it's pointless, completely pointless. And Jamie, you just pointed out the very reason why debates like this are a waste of time, because what normally happens in these debates, and don't worry, I've been part of them, a person will give their opinion and another person will counter that opinion, and it just goes on and on and on. We're not here to be disingenuous to Brenda. Jack 61 just simply played a clip, because remember, you may now have some good knowledge of the case, but there are new people that come on all the time that don't. They don't understand the significance of that, right? You don't want to give this impression that maybe Stephen Avery burnt the memory card on purpose to get rid of any potential evidence. And if that memory card was indeed still active and still viable, it would have put a timestamp on photographs. One of the biggest issues, and I think Jack 61 highlighted the problem, was the Avery salvage yard her very last stop? Did Teresa actually go to the Zipperers, right? And one way to tell is, of course, looking at the timestamps of the photographs, but the other is the voicemail message, which is gone. It's disappeared, right? Jolene wasn't even aware of what time Teresa Hallbach had arrived. She was very, very vague. So here's the issue. There's a lot of pieces of the puzzle that are missing, and people are giving their personal opinions, right? So like I said, that these type of debates, they'll go nowhere, right? They just end up being just a huge mess. So what we're going to do is we're going to refocus, and we're going to commence our rebuttal of Cam, episode 9. Guys, are there any other questions or comments?
Yes, I just want to answer Anthony Hills. He says, was Kratz and Moore regarded as elected officials, according to Brenda's definition? Kratz was from Calumet County, so she was talking about MTSO. Rohr was from Manitowoc. And so, yeah, he was at the yard several days, as I
fifth,
recall.
sixth, and seventh.
Yeah. So, yeah, that doesn't really fit with Brenda's statement.
Correct. All right.
And basically, she said that about the coroner. That's the reason the coroner didn't come to the property, because elected officials were not allowed on the property. So
right, but her other comment was that there was no body in the burn pit, so there was no need to call a coroner, right? And hence we had the very interesting conversation between Kratz and Rookie about a coroner just coming and kicking a body, right? So there was no body. All right. Well, look, guys, shall we play our very first clip, Jack 61?
Yep, this first clip is one that I created. It's at the beginning of the show before the credits roll. It's of Candace talking about, well, they started getting into the big conspiracy, which was part And as part of state advocate's side, that there had to be this large conspiracy, and I don't think anybody here believes that at all. I haven't for pretty much forever. So anyway, I'll pop this first clip in. I think it's about a minute or so long, and we'll discuss. Here we go.
Thank you, 61.
Play conspiracy theorists because that's what the internet loves, a good conspiracy theory. So Teresa Hallback's car is discovered just around the bend, and you would have to believe that the car got there because police officers happened upon the car of a missing person, and the first thing that came to their head was, let's plant this on Stephen Avery. Why? Because there was a $36 million pending lawsuit, and the state was going, nope, actually, the state was not going to have to pay the lawsuit. Neither were the police officers. In fact, the insurance company would have had to pay out this lawsuit, and they eventually did, but the cops are just so bent out of shape about the insurance company plausibly having to pay this lawsuit that they say, we must intervene. We're moralists when it comes to insurance companies. We just do not want them to have to pay that. So they devise a plan to move Teresa Hallback's car of a lot. They put the car there, then they decide to remove the plate. They put that somewhere else. They put a bunch of debris on top of the car. Then they thought, well, let's get his blood into this vehicle. So they broke into Stephen's trailer. He didn't see any of this, of course. Unfortunately for them, there was some fresh blood. They instantly got this fresh blood and then were able to transport it into Teresa Hallback's car, and nobody saw them. No, nobody saw them at all. So you either believe all of that happened, that absolute ludicrous circumstance happened, or, hear me out, or Stephen Avery killed Teresa Hallback, and he got her vehicle as close as he could to the crusher, I think because he intended to crush the vehicle, but he ran out of time. There's a little thing called Occam's razor. Go with the thing in your mind that makes the most sense.
Ooh.
Well.
You
really
have to believe, one or the other. You have to believe.
Yeah, so automatically she's forcing you down one path or the other. And if that's not manipulation, I don't know what is. Because there's another route for me. Anyway, I'll let you guys discuss.
All right. Who's got some comments on that little clip? So was there this grand, vast conspiracy or what? Susan, have you got any comments?
Yeah. It's her story is just silly. I don't think anyone here believes either one, actually. She says you have to believe one or the other. And there is, like Jack said, there's other alleys to go down. So, yeah, I just find it ridiculous.
Interesting. Does anybody have any comments?
Oh, I do.
We need to calm you down, good buddy. You're fired up.
Yeah. Well, I get really fired up when she starts talking about the lawsuit. The lawsuit is always pushed to the side, always, and it gets discounted for what it is. She says the insurance company would have paid it. No, they would if they had found that these cops had done events outside of their duties. They would not have paid it. That would have been on the city or the county, and potentially the state, because the state did have some involvement. How far that would have gone, I don't know. $36 million? No, I don't believe it at all. Without them testifying, I'm talking about Kasork and Vogel, they both tried to get out of testifying. They both then tried to get their testimony limited in the lawsuit so they wouldn't have to talk about certain things. And the judge said, no, you will testify in full. So, and I know that, I talked to Jamie about this before. Kasork involved his homeowner's insurance, and there are some homeowners, there are certain insurance policies that will protect you. If you do certain things, they will help you pay if you found guilty and you have to pay out money. I get that. But Kasork's, I know specifically, had State Farm, and they said, no, we're not covering you. So there's a lot of that, but the whole thing is, I feel that if both of them had been forced to give their depositions, there would have been certainly other things learned. Glenn and Kelly weren't stupid; they were loaded and ready to go. I think that ultimately there would have been a settlement out of court, probably for I'm just going to guess probably $5 million. It could have been a little bit less, could have been a little bit more.
Sean reckons he spoke to legal people. He believes it could have been between $5 and $8 million. I don't think it had anything to do with the money. The money wasn't.
Right.
And Kahuna 314 is trying to say the cops would have had qualified immunity.
Not outside of the not if they go outside of their. I'm not thinking of the proper word. Sauerkraut knows the word. If they go outside of their normal duties and do something against a defendant or someone, no, that's not qualified immunity at all. Sorry.
And just to be clear, law enforcement is capable of losing qualified immunity if they if it's proven that they've broken, violated somebody's civil rights.
Yes.
And they do that by acting under the color of law. It's a 1983 statute. And, that's if somebody's civil rights are violated, then they absolutely are. It's a federal crime. And so they can lose their immunity.
Yeah.
Honestly, it seems like it takes a lot to get a judge to grant that, but it is done, and I've read many articles proving that.
The thing though in this issue that we mustn't forget is that there was an incredible upswell of support for Stephen Avery, right? There was a lot of perceived injustice that was done against Stephen. And this was going to be very, very damaging because not only that, they named, remember the Avery Bill after Stephen Avery, and he was a company of politicians, lawmakers. He was on the news all the time. Plus, he really was the poster child for the Innocence Project. And this would have had incredible ramifications for the state. It's not really, now, I know Jamie says the lawsuit motive is not really unrealistic. It's interesting that Candace talks about Occam's razor. You must also remember that there's a flip side, and that is you have to also believe that Stephen Avery was going to give away the very vessel and mechanism to seek justice using legal means against those that destroyed him, his name, his family, his marriage, his children, everything. And 12 years in prison for something he didn't do. You have to believe, and if Candace talks about Occam's razor, that Stephen Avery was willing to throw all that away and to give a free pass to those that did malicious harm to him and everybody else in the sake of murdering a woman, a 25-year-old woman who did nothing to him, basically in daylight in his own backyard. So the Occam's razor works both ways. Was there a grand conspiracy? No, I don't believe so. But my personal belief is that I don't believe that Stephen was going to give away the very chance of seeking justice for himself and his family. So it does work both ways, guys. I think that we need to have a balance. It's interesting that in convicting a murderer, and we'll show it, they have totally diffused the civil suit as they made it trivial. Sorry, Jack 61.
No, I have one more thing to add to the civil suit, and again, this gets discounted and buried because it wasn't in the news.
Yep.
May of 2005, the depositions began. and there were, Strauss and Amy Lehman, Byland. There were several. That same month, a cold case file got some attention from Hennepin County, Minnesota, and it was directly about Gregory Allen.
Yes.
Anyway, this Gregory Allen had beat the hell out of this woman in Hennepin County, Minnesota, in 1991, and he sexually assaulted her. But he left his DNA, and they kept it. Well, they ran the test back then in 99, and it was a match. For whatever reason, we still don't know why. Sunshine Christina did most of the legwork on this. It's never understood why they didn't go after him then, but they didn't. He was already sentenced to 60 plus years in Wisconsin for the 95 or 96 assault.
They didn't even tell the victim that they had a match.
No, they didn't tell her that they had a match. They closed the book on it. Anyway, someone, either her or someone that, in her world, called the sheriff or the county in Hennepin County and said, "Hey, what's going on with this case? It's been so many years. What's going on?" Well, they opened the file, seeing Gregory Allen had been named. It was a match. So they open it back up. They get a warrant to go get his DNA in a Wisconsin prison in June of 2005. It matches. It's him. He's nailed. Moving forward, September 2005, a judge in Hennepin County signs an arrest warrant for Gregory Allen for this brutal assault on this woman. What happened with that warrant? Not a fucking thing for 27 months. Nothing. It's not released to the news. And I'm just being as a normal guy as I can be here. If this cold case information had gotten out about Gregory Allen during 2005, with Vogel and Kasorka involved, they're the ones that let this guy go. Now, I'm just imagining this massive media blow up. That's just me. I don't know if it would have happened or not. That's speculatory on my part, but there's not one news article about this cold case. And they were in the news all the time. They still are. So that had to play a part in, I'm talking about upper state authorities thinking. For me, personally. Yeah. Do I know what they did? No, I don't. I just see the end result of what happened with Stephen Avery.
I think if I agree, are we getting some feedback or we're all good? Okay. Jamie, Jamie does ask a very interesting question. Your question is actually very interesting. And I'll read it out. So, Doc, without the lawsuit, what is the motive to frame him? Who said that law enforcement were out to frame Stephen Avery? Who said that? And someone made the comment, they didn't start it. They didn't start the framing. They finished it. Just think about that. Who else... Let's go into this, because that's what really this episode is all about, this grand, vast conspiracy. There was no vast, grand conspiracy. Now, when Stephen got released in 2003, he had actually been in prison for 18 years. He was off the property, off the Avery salvage yard. And the salvage yard was essentially run by Chuck and Earl Avery. Okay, there was Mama Avery there as well, and Alan. Stephen, coming back to that property, had a very, very disruptive impact, because he is now free. And he's coming back to the property, and he's making a lot of noise and gaining a lot of attention, right? And he was going to get millions of dollars, whether people like it or not. He was going to change the dynamics at the Avery salvage yard, right? And quite clearly, there was a lot of tension. I believe that there was a lot of tension, especially the brothers with Stephen. And what is very interesting and actually quite chilling is that Stephen didn't get any support at all from his brothers. In fact, his brothers went on TV, especially Earl and Candy, who are the mouthpieces in convicting a murderer, quite happily pointing a finger at their own brother or brother-in-law or past brother-in-law, saying that he had committed this crime, that he had murdered Teresa Halbach. What you also hear in the phone calls is that there's no love or support from Chuck Avery. Chuck Avery had a lot to lose with Stephen gaining $5 to $8 million or whatever. He could have literally have bought out the Avery salvage yard and changed a lot of things. So to think that it was just the law enforcement and the lawsuit, no, I think you look at the timing of the events. There was a civil suit going on, and who would have benefited from Stephen going back to prison, charged with murder? Would Stephen have benefited at all? And yet, you listen to a phone call, right, Jack 61, between Chuck and Jody, and Chuck actually says maybe he wanted to go back.
Yep, that's right.
And this is November the 12th. November the 12th, when results are just starting to come in. And Chuck actually says that, oh, we're going to crush the truck. No one wants to be associated. This is Stephen's brand new, I think, F350 truck. We're going to crush it. There was blood on the key. He was convinced. His own brother was telling Jody, who's Stephen's fiance, that Stephen is guilty. And maybe
Chuck but Chuck had a real interest there, didn't he?
Chuck had a real vested interest in Jody, and it actually had made sexual advances to Jody, and wait for it, even Stephen's wife, Laurie, when she was pregnant. Just go to CASO, go to DCI. The reports, I was shocked at and Jack 61 will back me up. Chuck Avery's past misdemeanors and what he's done is shocking. Jack 61, your thoughts?
I've got 20 incidents or so, maybe 22, something like that. I don't know. We didn't get them. Sunshine and Christina and I didn't get them all, but we got several of them going back to I think 82 or 83, and Chuck is one angry dude. We've published some of them. They're in the library, but not all of them. I just don't think it's appropriate to publish some of them without heavy redaction, and I don't really want to redact anything. I mean, I don't want people's social security numbers and that kind of stuff out there. Not like that, or for a live phone number. I don't want anything like that out there. But I'm just saying the information in there. I just don't think it's appropriate for us to publish. People can order these incidents if they want them. They're available. But the guy's angry, Doc. He's one angry man.
He's very angry, and I think Dean Strang said it best in court. He said these cops weren't out to frame an innocent man. They framed him. They added evidence because they believed he was guilty.
I believe he was
because of whoever started the framing. They convinced them that Stephen was guilty.
Yeah, that's why I said before. Just right quick, Doc. That's why I said before. You have Wiegert and you have Fassbender, the lead investigators. All they would have to say to, these various officers, "Hey, we know he did it. We just need to find the evidence."
Well,
and they act on their own, and that's not a conspiracy at all. And that's what I believe. I think very few helped out the case in whatever way they could.
Correct.
That's what happened. I don't think they had a sit down meeting at a restaurant and. No way.
No, it's not. And the questions coming from chat are excellent, because that's exactly, if you listen to the clips we're about to play, they also come up with the same conclusions that we've just been discussing now. Now, let me just say this, right? Now, I'm just thinking out aloud and I'm not accusing anybody. If Chuck Avery had committed the murder and set his own brother up, is that a conspiracy? Guys, what do you think? Is that a conspiracy?
Yes.
Well, if he
that
said,
is
if I mean,
defined as a conspiracy.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
yeah, I guess, but to me, he would have to be working with someone. You have to me, you have to have a minimum of 2 people, right? To me.
Yeah, 2.
So if he did it by himself, to me, he just acted on his own. Now, he
Yep.
may have conspired with himself. I get that end of it, but yeah.
Yep. I think
conspiracy requires 2 or more people to be involved in the committing of the crime. And we're watching that with the Daybell Vallow case right now.
Correct.
Those charges are conspiracy to commit murder, they're all conspiracy, and that conspiracy involves 2 people that they can try because one of the 3 is dead. But that involves Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell conspiring to murder his first wife and her 2 children. It took
Correct.
both of them to conspire.
Correct. Now that's 100% correct. Now what you'll find is that in convicting a murderer, they spent at least 4 to 5 episodes looking at Stephen Avery's past, completely destroying and dehumanizing him. I tell you right now, come to our channel, come to our library and check out the documents. I'm not sure whether Jack 61 has put them up for Chuck Avery, but if the same lens was placed on Chuck Avery and maybe even Earl, the same intense lens that Stephen Avery was, you will be horrified. Jack 61, are women safe in the presence of Chuck Avery?
No. I think out of the ones we've got, we selected 10 that were.
We did. We did.
Yeah. I think there's 10 that we actually published that's in the library.
We did.
But he's got incidents with his daughter Shannon that it does to me. It just does not belong in the library. It was an incident, and it happened because he was mad as hell, and But I just don't think for us as a group that we should be providing that. People they can order these incidents if they want from MTSO, and that's on them.
100% correct. And it goes to show that you must be very, very careful because convicting a murderer with hosts and hostesses, they're powerful. They've got millions of supporters. Hell, our team, Foul Play team, we've got 2,500 fantastic subscribers. Our impact is that much. But when someone goes on TV and does a documentary, what are Cam saying that ma'am did? They brainwashed all of us. And yet Cam is coming out with these very, very strong statements and is not providing a balanced approach, right? Now, would a brother have an incentive enough to frame and set up his brother to get him out of the Avery salvage yard, get him back to prison, ensure that he gets no money to buy out the property, gets no recompense when they sell the Avery salvage yard, maybe in the future, and lose his own fiance, right? Chuck Avery ticks all those boxes. And furthermore, he was on the property when Teresa Horbach was there.
I just want to
Susan.
comment on Jamie's comment that says there's less evidence of Earl and Chuck or Bobby than there is for Brendan, at least be honest. Well, Jamie, the absence of evidence does not mean that
evidence of absence.
You know what I'm saying?
Which is really funny.
It's something
right?
I heard in Cam. Yeah.
In Cam, correct, which is really funny, right? You have a guy with his criminal history. I'm talking about Chuck. His violent temper, his the fact that several people from the Avery salvage yard put in complaints to the police that they were being stalked by Chuck Avery. These are clients of the Avery salvage yard. And the ruse he used to do was he used to deliver parts to people and stalk them, give them gifts, give them flowers, give them phone calls, take photographs of their properties. And he also used to invite the women onto the Avery salvage yard as well. So when you look at his criminal history, where he was, he's on the front office. And a gentleman went to find, and I promise we're not going to spend all day talking about Chuck, because he's actually in some of our clips. When a guy came to call for Chuck, they couldn't find him, and they kept on shouting at him for about 5 minutes. And then he finally rolls up. This was at a critical time when guess who was on the property? Teresa Halbach. Chuck Avery does not have an alibi. Now, you look at his criminal past, his criminal history, and what he was doing during that time frame. You put him next to Brendan Dassey, where there is no forensic evidence. How come that kid is sitting in prison for life with no forensic evidence, no background, no criminal history, never been in trouble with the law or his teachers? So if you're going to apply both standards, you look at Chuck.
I have a comment, Doc. Answer a question.
Jack 61.
Yeah, I think it was Courtney that asked on all the calls on foul play, and I'll tell you that every call that we have, jail call or otherwise, dispatch call, every call that we have is in the library, and I can tell you right now there are some calls that were played in cam that we do not have. They were not released. I will tell you right now, I'm in a big kerfuzzle with MTSO and CASO about getting calls from, well, I can't even count from December 10th to the 31st, 2005, because there seems to be some kind of lapse of record. I can't answer that. But beginning in January through what I was actually given starting February 18th, I think, we got February 18th through March 6th. I got those Jody calls, but there's a period of January, February, or part of February that I can't get. There's a record of it, a DCI report, where Wiegert gave them to Fassbender to make a copy. This DCI report, I think it's 260, but I can check that. But it's clearly there. Fassbender wrote the report that Wiegert gave him these CDs of Jody making these calls.
Correct.
And I can't get them. It's like MTO says they don't have them. Well, they had to originate there. She was in jail there. Someone had to make a copy from Manitowoc County and hand them to Wiegert.
Yep. Well, the calls that we've got already are very, very damaging. And it's interesting that November the 12th call, instead of Chuck actually supporting his brother, knowing full well what happened to him in 1985, he was actually convincing Jody of his own brother's guilt. And that is phenomenal. He had no support from his brother, right? So it's interesting that because there's all this grand conspiracy, we've actually lost sight of what's important. And that's the real tragedy. And Candace, she's done the read technique, right, guys? Which version do you want? Which version do you want to take into account? Occam's razor, or shall we discuss this into further detail and say, look, guys, there is no vast grand conspiracy. And just one final point. Remember that Nebraska, the double homicide that occurred many, many years ago, and it turned, David Kofod, and he was interviewed because he got sent to prison for evidence tampering. And what he did was he planted one drop of blood in a car that happened to be the victim's blood from a crime scene many, many miles away. And his comment was on a documentary, he goes, I don't care about testimony. I want physical evidence to win a case.
Yep.
So he planted blood deliberately in a car which he thought was involved in a double homicide. It turned out that the two cousins, or one of the cousins, gave a false confession, named his other cousin. They were both convicted and sentenced to prison for life for double homicide, and neither of them were there. Now, the conspiracy was one person, the lab tech. So shit like that happens. So please don't come off that everyone is so squeaky clean that no one can salt the evidence. And I believe that in this case, the majority of the planting was not done by law enforcement.
No.
It wasn't. It was not, except for one thing: planting bones in Stephen's burn pit.
Absolutely.
That's it. Tip a bucket of a small amount of cremains. Done.
Boom.
That's it. No, we're going to set this up. We're going to kill Teresa Halbach. We're going to get his blood, DNA. No.
Hey, Doc, we have a few questions. I don't know if
Awesome. Let's go for
Rhonda or Susan wants to get to them that I've seen roll by.
Which ones?
Which ones?
I know you can star them. You can star anything that we don't get to.
I've got a few starred.
Well, just go over to the start tab and.
Here's one I starred in the beginning. Even the string had the dog reports as loose track to Cuss Road. I didn't know if you wanted to get into that tonight, given the topic.
Well, I mean, I can answer that pretty quickly. Yeah, I think all the dog reports were turned over in Discovery. I remember seeing those in Discovery, so they should have had those reports. Yes.
Okay. And then Justine J asked, "What is Zellner's next steps, please?" She asked twice, so I wanted to make sure we caught that one.
Well, it's at the Court of Appeals, and her brief is due, I think, December 18th. Isn't that right, Susan? On your birthday?
Yes, on my birthday, December 18th.
So unless she files for another extension, that's when her brief to the Court of Appeals is due. I suspect she will ask for another extension, but I don't know. We don't know that. And this is on the 97406. This is the third 97406 that's been filed in Stephen's case. So that's where that stands.
And then Anthony Hills asked a couple of times, was Kratz and Rohr regarded as elected officials, according to Brenda's definition, in the context of having access to
Absolutely.
the salvage yard?
Well,
Yes.
Kratz doesn't count because he's part of Calumet County, and they weren't on that list of not being on the property. But Rohr certainly is. He is an elected official. Absolutely.
Okay,
Wasn't Grease back there too? I thought I heard.
Greaseback
He was
there.
there.
He was there as
Yes.
well.
He was
Correct.
definitely there on the 5th. I don't know about after the 5th, but he was there on the 5th.
Correct.
And videos says apparently not all Stephen Avery is in the foul play library given his past, or is it?
Most of it is.
Everything we've been able to get,
Well,
or
we know
Jack's been able to get, yeah.
we don't have the trial transcripts. I think we've only got Shariko Haynes' testimony, but it's not available for free yet. We have to buy it, and it'll be
I think
we've
he's
got
more referring to Stephen's lurid
Stephen's
past.
past, yeah.
I think
We've
most of
all
it.
seen it. We're all familiar with it. I don't know if it's in the library or not.
I think most of it is. Yeah, I think most of it is. The police reports and various going back to probably 82. Yeah, I think pretty much everything is in there.
Yeah. Just to answer, Jamie, this is my last question I answer from you, by the way. Doc, what evidence beyond your speculation is there to support Chuck or Earl? None. None. I'm looking at all the individuals. No, there is no more evidence against Brendan.
No.
Brendan Dassey has just got his words, right? There is no forensic evidence that ties Brendan Dassey to any nefarious activity involving Teresa Halbach. And proof of this is very simple. If Brendan Dassey had a legal representative with him or an adult, on the very first time he spoke to Detective O'Neill, Brendan Dassey would be home.
Yep.
Because there is not one scrap of forensic evidence that ties Brendan Dassey to the murder of Teresa Halbach. Zero. If he'd never said a word. Now, the question is, do you believe that the RAV4 has been checked forensically and thoroughly? I don't think it
No.
has. I don't
No.
think it has. So therefore, if Chuck or Earl are truly innocent of any involvement, get the RAV forensically tested using MVAC. Someone took off the license plates, MVAC them, determine what type of DNA is present in that RAV. Chuck and Earl's DNA should not be present anywhere on that RAV, right? So, no, I don't have any evidence. Yes, I'm speculating, but could Chuck have possibly done this? Go through CASO, and in actual fact, what's ironical, right, Jack 61? About a year ago, we had a discussion with Kelly, and Kelly said to us, "I guess who's the number one suspect, potential suspect of having murdered Teresa Halbach and set Stephen up?" And we're there. Could it
Chuck.
possibly be Bobby Dassey?
No.
No, it was Chuck Avery by a country mile. And if you go through the DCI reports, I reckon that Skolinski was this close of arresting Chuck. Jack 61.
Yep. I agree. I completely agree. But I think they were well aware of his past and his real anger issues towards women at various times. And I think you're right. I think they were really thinking he had something to do with it.
Yep. Either as the actual murderer or as a co-conspirator. I reckon they came that close in arresting him.
I have to agree.
Yep. Okay. Jack 61. Shall we play our next clip?
Well, I just want to make sure we don't have any more lingering questions that we can quickly get to, and then I can play this next clip. Rhonda or Susan?
I say let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on.
Yep.
Okay.
Just a bunch of chat.
All right. Okay. I'm going to load the next clip. Here we go. Let's see. Yeah, that's right. Clip 1. All right, here we go.
I have to believe that in the span of hours, when she's reported, they concoct this massive conspiracy.
That's like, I don't know how you can set somebody up with trying to transfer bones and where things were found inside the yard and where her vehicle was found in the pit, and somebody would have to really know the yard.
Yeah.
I agree. I actually agree with Candy. Does anyone have any comments?
Well, I have to agree with her too. Somebody really kind of has to know their way around.
Yeah. There were a lot of people that knew that yard as well.
Absolutely. I agree with that too.
Yeah. To be able to get where they got, and
Correct. Anybody else? Anybody else got any comments? I don't recall. Do you have any comments? Do you agree with Candy?
I'm sorry, I had stepped away. What did she say?
She said that really, to have committed this crime, you really had to know your way around. You had to know the yard, the Avery salvage yard.
Yeah, I guess kind of. I guess they might have, yeah.
Yep. Anybody else?
Or had guidance like Pam did, you know.
Yeah, or have guidance. Correct.
Had
correct.
guidance, yeah.
Yep.
That's
Correct.
true.
What she said was have guidance like Pam did. I don't know if you guys caught that. Okay.
Oh, I did.
Okay.
Correct.
Divine intervention.
Correct.
Incorrect. The thing is that someone like Chuck and Earl, they know their way around the Avery salvage yard. And if they want to make things disappear or move things in certain locations, it's very, very easy for them to do. And I know that Earl, allegedly on the 31st, he was out in the yard somewhere on an end loader. And correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but didn't he rip out a couple of trees that he was going to use for his property? And what is very interesting here, Jack 61, and guys, is that what do you find at the back of the RAV? What's propping up on the back of the RAV?
Oh, it's a couple of large branches or small trees.
Small trees and large branches. And I remember, yep.
What's weird about that is he says he doesn't say where he took those trees from, but he and Fabian load them up on the golf cart when they're rabbit hunting, and he drops them by the conveyor.
Oh, the conveyor.
Why the hell would he drop them? He was going to take them home, but he drops them by the conveyor. That makes no sense.
Correct. 100% correct. It's very interesting that the conveyor area, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but that was an activity that the cadaver dogs alerted to near the conveyor. So it's very interesting that the back of the RAV just happens to have these branch like material. Okay. Jamie, I've already warned you. This is not your podcast, okay? Please do your own podcast and we'll come on it and we'll answer your questions, right? You can't keep hijacking our podcast. Guys, what do you think?
Yeah, stay on track.
I agree. I just won't highlight his comments anymore, and we don't need to discuss them if they're going to be confrontational like that.
Yep. Put your comments on X, join our Discord, and I'm sure people will discuss it, right? Otherwise, we're never going to finish. We're never going to finish our podcast. But it's interesting that both Chuck, he does not have an alibi, and Earl is somewhere in the property. He's ripping out trees. Allegedly, he was he hunting rabbits on October the 31st, or did he get that day confused?
I think he said he and Fabian. I think he and Fabian were hunting, but I know there's a lot of. Go ahead, Susan.
I've been deep diving in that story this week, and I can't tell you how often it changes between both of them, Earl and Fabian. They both change their stories.
That's interesting.
Fabian's first story, when he came to the salvage yard, was that, he pulled up there and he was talking to Chuck.
Yes.
And Stephen walked out of his mom's house, and Chuck asked Stephen, "Hey, did that photographer show up?" And Fabian makes the comment, "Photographer? What, you're going to have your picture taken?" And then Stephen says, "No, she didn't show up." And that was on the 10th, November 10th, he said that. And then on November 30th, he drops that joke. He doesn't mention that about the photographer, about the joke that he made about it or whatever he said to Stephen.
Correct.
Correct.
So
and on November 5th, when Earl's in the police car down by the crusher, he tells them that he thinks it was Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday that they went rabbit hunting.
Correct.
And then on the 8th, he tells them it was Wednesday. He figured it out. It was Wednesday night. Candy says it was Wednesday night.
Yes.
On the 9th, let me see here. He says it again. It was Wednesday night. Now, Fabian on the 10th said it was Wednesday. On the 30th, he said it was his wife, Cindy, told him it was Monday. But he said, I thought it was Tuesday or Wednesday. So, I mean, and
it's
then
really unclear.
It's very unclear. And
Correct.
then Fabian also says in his first story the first story, he's standing out there with Chuck. Well, his second story, he's like, oh, I remembered all of a sudden that I was actually sitting in my truck when that happened, when I heard Chuck ask Stephen. So,
what the hell, man?
Yeah. And then he changes it finally to the 31st. I remember because the kids were going trick-or-treating that night. Well,
correct.
That's what he says at trial, right?
Yes. Yes. But that was also the night that Earl went and got his new glasses. And he was at the doctor's office. He left there at like 5:32, something close to that. Okay. And it's like a 20 to 25 minute drive to the doctor's office. Well,
Yes.
at times they say, Earl says we both left at the same time at 5:15, which would get him there, I guess, in time to do that. But then Earl says, and then I just went home after I got my glasses and I was home all night. And then it changes to, they drive twice past Stevens now. And Earl or Fabian, I think it was Earl that said we didn't leave until 5:30 or 5:45. It's the second time we went past Stevens.
That's
right.
right.
Earl was already at the eye appointment on Monday.
Yep. And you raise a really good point, Susan. Sorry for cutting in, because in Cam, and we'll play the clip, they actually said, because they stopped by with the golf cart.
Yep.
And Fabian said, I had smoke blow into my face and I smelled plastic, right? Insinuating that Stephen was burning Teresa's electronics.
He didn't mention that in his first stories. The first story that Earl tells about going by Stevens, he says Stephen was inside his garage looking at the Skidoo.
The Skidoo, correct.
The Skidoo. And he was talking to him. Well, later the story changes. Fabian says the garage doors are closed. The Skidoo is on a trailer attached to Stephen's truck. And it looked like he was getting ready to go up north.
That's correct.
Then Earl changes his story to that the truck's outside with the Skidoo trailered behind it.
Yeah,
I mean, you go through all their different interviews, and it's just mind-boggling how they change everything.
Correct. But you see, but this is the fundamental issue that people just do not want to comprehend. And the factor is that the Averys and the Dassies, in a lot of cases, get times, days, events completely scrambled, right? So how on earth can Stephen have his garage open with looking inside the garage? Where's the RAV4? Where did Stephen place the RAV4? And on Cam, what they're insinuating is that Teresa's RAV4 was placed inside the garage. So you've got this ridiculous situation whereby somehow Stephen is taking Teresa's RAV4, placing it somewhere. Then when Earl and Chuck and everybody else disappears, He goes and gets the RAV4 and then puts it in his garage, right? The whole sequence of events doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's contradictory, right? So it's not because we have an agenda and it doesn't suit our narrative. What we're saying is what the witnesses are saying themselves, right, Susan, does not add up.
Oh,
Go
and
read them yourself.
I forgot about the phone call of Stephen on.
Yeah, 2 phone calls.
Let me think. Oh no, on the 30th. Brendan is in the garage with Stephen.
That's right.
They had went into that other trailer and looked for his scanner, or the scanner, the little thing that hooks on the scanner, I think.
Antenna.
Yeah. But they were back in the garage, and Stephen said to Brendan, "Look at my new TV." Like, it's out in the garage. And then in one of Earl's interviews, he says, "I helped Stephen carry his TV in either Monday or Tuesday."
Correct.
His new TV into the house. So, and that was on the 8th. Earl said that. So, yeah, I really believe they were rabbit hunting on Wednesday. After going through all of that. Yeah.
And this is the issue, guys, when you're trying to establish a timeline, right? The timeline does not make any sense whatsoever. All you have to be out is by one day, even a couple of hours, and everything is completely screwed, right? So law enforcement are trying to desperately work out a timeline. But the problem is the individuals that you're trying to develop a timeline from, they keep changing their narrative and they keep changing their stories. Right, Susan? As you just pointed out with Earl.
Yeah. And then Fabian also comes up with this story about the second time they come around to Stevens, he was acting really weird.
Really weird.
He had changed his clothes from when he saw him up front by the office. And he was just standing really stiff and acting really weird. I mean, you know, he doesn't say that at first. You know, he just comes up with this giant story about how Stephen looked really suspicious. So, yeah, it's a mind fuck when you go through all those different interviews.
Absolutely.
Which is very interesting. Which is very interesting because if you look at the DCI report, that's what Kennedy said about Chuck. Oh, suddenly I can't find Chuck. I'm in the office. He's always in the office. And he was calling for Chuck. 5 minutes later, Chuck appears and he goes, "That's very suspicious," because what he said was, and there were other witnesses who said, normally what happens is this: when someone comes onto the Avery salvage yard, Chuck meets them outside. He meets them outside. And now, all of a sudden, on the same day Teresa Halbach is there, he goes missing. And Kennedy also noted one thing. What did he say? He noted smoke coming from the area of the pit. But he didn't know what the origin of the smoke was. Now, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, you know, I just got to add in, and this goes to all of them, and it could apply to, hell, anyone out there. There's just times where you're just not categorizing in your brain when these little events happen. You're just not. So it kind of becomes a jumble, and unless you have something specific that can tie you to a certain date and event, you get it wrong. It happens all the time. So none of them have, I mean, in my opinion, none of them have great recall.
That's kind of why I really believe that it was on Wednesday that they rabbit hunted, because, you know, Earl said it first, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday on the 5th. And then on the 8th, he's like, it was Wednesday. So I think they had a conversation about it at home, and people, you know, and they were figuring it out. And he settled on Wednesday in several of his interviews.
They're trying to come up with a consensus, right?
Yeah.
And what is interesting, the point that Earl was trying to make goes, look, I went down the pit area right? I went, and if it's the 4th that we're talking about, I went down to the pit area. I didn't see Teresa Horbach's car. That vehicle was not present there. What Earl said complements with what was happening up in the air, in the aeroplane, right?
Well,
They flew over.
Thursday the 4th is when he sighted his guns, him and Steven down there. But he said,
Correct.
I didn't see the rab, but I wasn't looking for it.
Correct.
But the rabbit hunting is when they actually drove down that lane, which I think was Wednesday.
Okay. So as early as Wednesday and as late as Thursday, there's no sight of the RAV4, correct? Would you agree with that? No one ever saw the RAV4 down there,
No,
right? Which
no one saw it until
Saturday the 5th, November the 5th.
God
right?
showed the way.
Yeah. Which goes to show what people have been arguing all along, and that is there's good anecdotal evidence that the RAV4 was off the property. That it was off the property. That's the point. Stephen, when he was asked, said, I saw Teresa Horbach leave the property. Susan.
Well, Jamie's trying to say it became clear it was the day Earl had the eye appointment. No, it didn't become clear, Jamie. He said that. He said that later, but that's after Fabian says it was the 31st.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
no, I don't think it became clear.
No, it's not clear at all.
It's not clear at all. There's too many altering statements. I wanted to say hello to Barb. I saw she's in chat.
Oh, nice. Welcome. We're having a really big debate here. Jack 61, can we have a look at the next slide or clip?
It's clip 2. Yep, absolutely. I'm going to put it up.
Thank you.
The defense during the trial in this case and a TV program likes to put forth the idea that evil law enforcement planted evidence in order to set up Stephen Avery.
You got 50, 75, 100 squad cars or whatever up and down both sides of that road and everything, and they all lied. They're all fabricators. I
want to stop this right here because this is another, in my opinion, now people can believe whatever they want, but to me, Doc, everybody, this is another manipulation that comes from their side. It doesn't come from our side of what we see. There's just absolutely no way they had this massive sit down with all 4 or 5 different law enforcement agencies and said, we're going to set this guy up. You shut your fucking mouth and you do what you're told. And don't you tell anybody. No way that happened. Not a chance.
No, and for Earl, see, again, to me, this is disingenuous. Because what Earl said, 100 cars, both sides of the road, they all lied, they're all fabricators. No, absolutely not. And so this is the main issue in that both Tom Fassbender and others are saying that there had to be this vast conspiracy in order to set Stephen up. That is indeed not the case. How many times do we have to keep on saying it? And that's the message that they're portraying in CAM, that there had to be this grand coordination with all these departments and everyone had to be on board.
No way.
That's not.
And they're all liars.
And that
no, Earl. Correct. Nobody believes that.
No. Well, they're saying that that's what we have to believe, but that's not true at all. It's just not. I wanted to point. I remember watching this clip. We were going through them the other day, and I'm thinking, "Holy cramoly!" Anyway, let me continue on with this clip.
Yeah, but before you do, Jack 61.
Yeah,
this is precisely the same straw man argument that Kratz portrayed in court.
That's right.
Statements. So basically, you must believe that these officers did A, B, C, D. and you must accept the whole lot. That is indeed not the case. You don't have to believe that that any law enforcement officer killed Teresa Halbach.
No.
That's blatantly absurd. You don't have to believe that all the law enforcement officers had this grand conspiracy to A, target Stephen, and B, to set him up. None whatsoever. And it's remarkable that there's no one here to rebut those crazy remarks by Fassbender and also Earl. Now, Earl should know better, right? He knows. Look what happened to his own brother in 1985. Are you now giving a free pass to all in law enforcement, saying that they're all liars and all fabricators? I was shocked when I heard Earl say that statement. Sorry, guys.
No, absolutely. And, Kratz, he did exactly what Candace did at the beginning, that first clip I showed. It's one or the other. He did that in his closing. You either got to believe these cops killed Teresa and on, or no, there's another way here. But this goes to the theater that Kratz was very good at creating in the courtroom.
Oh, correct. And, these straw man type arguments, they can be potentially very destructive because they're giving you two options and both of the options are completely ridiculous and absurd, right? And don't worry, we're going to hear more about it. So should we continue that clip?
Yes.
Awesome.
I can't see it.
The stars would have to have aligned like never before in history.
Oh my God.
And even then, I think it'd be impossible.
Contrary to what Jerry Buting said, it only needs to be one or two police officers. That's all it needs to be.
This could be done by two officers, really one officer.
That is complete bullshit.
There would need to be the Manitowoc County Sheriff's Office, Calumet County, DCI, the crime lab.
It would have taken many people with no connection to this man whatsoever to come together and say, all right, let's get this guy.
The lawsuit might be a motive to frame him, but first you've got to have somebody murdered who goes to his property that he has some kind of connection to.
Ultimately, they learned that Stephen Avery had actually called Auto Trader that day and asked for the same girl that had been there before, not giving his true name.
He happens to be home. He's not using his phone. She's not using her phone.
They're able to amazingly luck out, and he has no alibi, Stephen Avery. It's the first time he took off work, apparently, ever.
Either you planted the vehicle or you killed her and you planted the vehicle. And if you didn't kill her and you run across the RAV and you decide to plant it, you sure have to know a lot of information. You have to know that blood in that vehicle belongs to Teresa or Avery or a different killer. How do you know whose blood it is?
Somebody kills her and plants maybe a little evidence, and then the cops come along and plant some more evidence.
Well, no, Brenda, you don't have to know that there's blood in that, anything in that RAV at all. It's the actual event of it arriving on the property. That's really enough to kick off the whole thing. Because they didn't open it on the 5th, right?
Correct.
But
yes.
that really began everything.
Correct. The RAV4 wasn't opened on the Avery salvage yard. But I tend to agree with what Brenda and Puzzled by It All said, that this is a two-part event, in my opinion. The killing itself and the setting of Stephen up. Now, how much role that killer had in setting Stephen up, I believe that law enforcement did have a small involvement in planting evidence against Stephen. The law enforcement had nothing to do, in my opinion, about the murder of Teresa Halbach, but someone definitely murdered her. And I believe that law enforcement were involved in some small aspect in planting forensic evidence against Stephen. Any comments, guys?
Oh, well, it's just more of this vast conspiracy. You heard what Rich Donovan said there. And Dave, you got involved. Manitowoc, Calumet, the state troopers, the DOJ, the crime lab. No, you don't. But they're trying to paint us with this crazy brush that we're saying that these people all sat down, had this big meeting and says, we're going to screw Stephen. And then, didn't really matter later on that Brendan got roped into this to bolster their case. So that's a kind of a side thing. They don't really talk about that at all. So no, I do not agree with that at all.
Correct. But it's something that's always promoted and presented in convicting a murderer.
Yes.
So basically you have to believe that there's a grand conspiracy. No, you don't. And not all law enforcement officers are evil. They're going to plant material. No. But you have to also believe that there are bad apples, right? In all professions, even in my field of science. How many people have been convicted of falsifying data, especially when they're doing cancer research in order to solicit money from funding organizations? Yep. It's shocking.
Yeah,
that type of scientific fraud occurs even in the very best of people. So to believe that no one from law enforcement is capable of doing something like this, you're crazy, right? It can definitely happen, right? Absolutely. It can most definitely happen. What extent it occurred, we do not know, right? But what we're trying to do is explore all avenues, not just hone down on Stephen or Brendan, but to open it up a little bit.
Right. Before we play this next, I don't know if you guys are ready for the next clip, but any questions that we need to get to? Susan, Rhonda, Cherie?
Again, I'm not seeing any questions really, but I'm just trying to set the record straight to the chat. Nobody's comments are being deleted.
No.
I am trying to star questions that are immediately relevant to what we're speaking about so that we can address them later after the podcast. If we keep talking about things that aren't relevant to the topic that we're trying to present tonight, we're never going to get through it. And that may be the goal of some people, but it's not our goal. And this is our show. This is our podcast. So we'll run it the way we want to. I will star your questions as fast as I can. If you're afraid I didn't get your question, and I might not have, if you're afraid I didn't get your question, by all means, please post it again, and I will make sure that it gets starred. I've got about 12 in there right now, and some of those have been answered. So please feel free to repost your comment with the Q in front of it. That helps me to see it better.
And no one's comments are getting deleted unless you.
Nobody's comments are being deleted. The only comment that got deleted was by one person, and that person was timed out only because he was being antagonistic, in my opinion, and in the panel's opinion.
Correct.
And we get to make that decision because it's our fucking show. Sorry. So stop saying that comments are being deleted or ignored. I'm trying to highlight all the comments and star all the questions.
Yep.
Like the way we're presenting our podcast, then go make your own podcast. And I'm not trying to be a bitch about that. Go make your own podcast and say whatever you want.
Yep,
and
correct.
If we come into your chat and you don't like what we're saying, by all means, delete our comments and time us out. That is absolutely your right to do on your podcast. I'm kind of getting annoyed by it, watching the chat.
Correct. Jamie, if you're listening, we've got nothing against you at all, right?
It's not just Jamie. No. Sorry, Doc. It's not just Jamie. There's a couple of others.
Sure.
So they all know who they are.
Yep. Jamie and I, and also Jack 61, we have discussions on X, civil debates, which is awesome. But you have to admit, at least we're providing an avenue for discussion, right? I know that there are groups that are closed. You can't get access to the group. We at least are here in front of you guys, bearing our souls, bearing our thoughts, but we can't keep being sidetracked. Otherwise, we'll never finish the podcast. Right?
That's right.
But please, we do like your questions. Keep them coming. And like I said, try and keep focused, and we'll try and answer as many as possible. Tomorrow, guys, we'll be back. We'll continue. Jack 61, shall we play the next clip?
Absolutely. This is, and just so everyone knows, I think there's 13, 14 clips. And anyway, this is clip number 3. Here we go.
Possible way.
If you want to set Stephen Avery up, why are you cremating Teresa beyond recognition and possibly identification and distributing her back there? And again, these bad cops got really lucky, because it turns out on Halloween, Stephen had a fire in his fire pit. Moving on, you've got stuff in the burn barrel. Her camera, her phone, and her PDA are burned in the burn barrel. We have a witness that actually said he smelled kind of a smell of plastics burning. He was on the property with one of Stephen's brothers.
Now, all right. So isn't that interesting? So do we have any comments about that?
Well, it's just furthering this conspiracy theme that they started really at the beginning of this episode. So it's just furtherance of that. I don't really have too much to say about it.
Right.
And Fabian's first interview, he doesn't mention the burning barrel at all.
That's really interesting.
Correct. Now, Jack 61, do you have the slides which accompany this clip? Do you have the Fabian slides? Have you got it?
I do.
There.
One second.
Yep. So the accusation here is that Robert Fabian had actually smelt a burning plastic, right, coming from Stephen Avery's burn pit. We've got a couple of very interesting things here, right? And we've covered this before. And so basically, Robert Fabian was asked by Kratz to talk about what he recalled. Now look at the time, 5:20. And he basically said that both him and Earl had pulled up in a golf cart, and they stopped between Stephen Avery's trailer and garage. And that he said, and I quote, "And the smoke from the burn barrel was blowing right in my face, so I told Earl to move ahead." Now, what is very interesting is that, now wait for it, Kathleen Zorn actually checked the wind conditions, very much like we did for debunking Sarah Fausk. And the wind conditions meant that where Earl and Chuck had Earl and Robert Fabian had actually stopped in between the house and the garage, there's no way that smoke is coming towards him. The smoke is actually going away from both Earl and Robert Fabian, right? It's not going towards him. But what is very, very interesting is if you listen to what Susan just said, they may have gotten the day completely wrong about looking at the burn barrel smoke, right? But Robert Fabian was asked a series of questions as well regarding the burn pit. So Jack 61, if you just scroll across a little bit, he basically was asked, and I'll quote, "You certainly saw no larger fire going on in the burn area." Answer, "No, I did not." So wait a minute. You've got Robert Fabian and Earl right next to where the fire is meant to be from the burn pit. They don't notice a fire going on. They obviously don't smell any smoke, otherwise they would have said it. And yet Fabian says that he smelled burning plastic from Stephen's burn barrel. right? Which is a long distance away. Susan. Susan, do you have any comments, or Jack 61?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm unmuted.
That's all right.
I was just looking to see. I don't even think Fabian said on the 30th that there was the burn barrel,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm just looking to verify that.
You know, another thing that we all discount, because most of us don't have burn barrels out in our yard. We don't live out in a rural area and burn our trash. But that's what they do. These people burn their garbage. So on any given day, somebody could start a fire to burn a couple of bags of trash in their burn barrel. I'm just saying. And if you look at the confusion, and it is confusing if you read
Yes.
Earl and Fabian's statements. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Correct.
Am I still unmuted?
Yeah.
You're unmuted. Correct.
He does say he sees smoke. He says, let's see. He did not see, let's see, Robert does indicate he sees no fire in the burn pit. But he indicates he had seen smoke coming out of a burn barrel when Robert and Earl had driven by Stephen's residence on a golf cart. Fabian said the burning garbage smelled like plastic to him coming from the burn barrel outside of Steve's residence. Fabian says he would have stopped it if he would have seen Teresa being harmed or in danger. He doesn't say they pulled up on the golf cart and the smoke was hitting him in the face.
Mm-hmm.
But he does say on the 30th. He doesn't mention it on the 10th. Nothing about a burn barrel. But on the 30th, yeah, he did.
On the 30th?
Yeah, and Earl's never mentioned that burn barrel burning.
Right.
No.
Right. Because
Earl didn't even know that Stephen had a fire pit in his backyard behind his garage.
Right. Because remember on cam, Earl said, I don't remember that about the smoke coming from the burn barrel. And he goes, if Robert Fabian said it, then it must be true.
Yeah.
Remember what he said?
Actually,
it must be true.
I'm pretty sure that was about Teresa not being there. Chuck or Earl. I think it was Brenda that said neither one of them remember it.
Right. Right.
We know another interesting thing. I know you're going to get to it, Doc, is about these gunshots. I mean, seriously.
Correct. And so the interesting thing is that these two gentlemen obviously are very, very close to the burn pit, but they don't smell anything coming from the burn pit. They don't hear anybody screaming from the trailer, as in Teresa Hallbach being pinned up in the bed in the trailer. They didn't hear any gunshots as well. And of course, who made the comment about hearing gunshots on November the 6th? Who made the comment to the detective about that if there were any gunshots on the property, he would have heard them? Who was it?
Chuck
Avery. Now, this is before any cranial bone fragments are found with beveling, indicating that Teresa Hallbach was shot at least twice in the skull. And yet Chuck made the comment about gunshots. Does anyone want to make any comments? Susan. Are you muted or unmuted?
She must be muted.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I had my mic muted. No, sorry. I don't have a comment. Thank you.
Okay. Jack 61.
No.
Okay. All right. So it seems rather bizarre that these guys can't get their stories straight, right? So Kathleen Zellner said, no, if Fabian and Earl were between the trailer and the garage, there's no way that smoke is getting to them, right? The smoke is going in the opposite direction to where they are, which is rather remarkable. But if you think that's bad, Jack 61, can we have a look at the next slide? That's the one with the affidavits of blame. All right. Susan, do you see the slide?
Sure, Doc.
Would you like to read what Blaine said on November the 7th.
Blaine indicated when he got off the bus, he and Brendan walked directly to their house. Blaine said he did not talk to anyone except for Brendan. He did not see anyone. He does not recall seeing a vehicle that does not normally belong in the driveway, and he did not see Stephen Avery. November
right.
15th. Do you want me to
Yep.
keep going?
Yeah, yes, please.
Okay, so this is a little over a week later. Blaine was asked during the walk home from the bus, did he observe Stephen talking to a female outside Stephen's or his mother's residence? And he said no. He was asked if he observed a female taking photographs of the maroon van that his mother was trying to sell, and he said no. He was asked if he saw a female driving in her vehicle, a dark-colored Toyota RAV4, on the road leading to his house, and he said no. Blaine said he did not see a female or any vehicle like that while he was walking home. He said the first time he saw the female, Teresa Halbach, and her vehicle were on the TV news reports.
There you go.
Blaine said as he got closer to his residence, he saw Steve walking from his own residence to his own burn barrel, carrying a white plastic bag. Blaine said he observed Stephen place the white plastic bag into his burn barrel, which was already burning. He then saw Steve walk back in his own residence.
Now, don't you find that, just before we read the last bit, this is truly remarkable, because now, for some unknown reason, Blaine remembers something that he never remembered nearly 8 days prior. So the first time he gave his statement, he never saw Stephen.
He didn't see Stephen. Yeah.
He didn't see Stephen at all. So
Yeah.
now all of a sudden he adds this extra bit where he now sees Stephen come out of his trailer with a rubbish bag, and he places it in the burn barrel that's already burning.
Yeah.
Yep.
But if that gets worse, look what Blaine says in his affidavit to Kathleen Zellner. Would you like to read it out?
I remember on October 31, 2005, seeing my Uncle Stephen carrying a white plastic bag to his burn barrel. I did not see a fire in the burn barrel. However, the police pressured me into saying that there was a fire in the burn barrel and visible smoke coming from the burn barrel. My testimony about the fire and smoke coming from the burn barrel was not true.
Holy
no.
shit.
Oh, no.
That's awful.
So now he's got 3 different versions. He's got a version where he never saw Steve. He's got a version where he saw Steve put in rubbish in a smoking or burning burn barrel. And now he goes, I just saw Stephen just put rubbish in his burn barrel. It wasn't smoking. It wasn't on fire. The police pressured me. So, guys, how can you possibly say that Blaine is a good witness in a criminal trial?
Well, you can't. He clearly, looking at his affidavit of 2018, he was pressured and manipulated.
Correct. But to make matters worse, guys, have a look at the next. So before we go on, Jack 61.
Yep.
Brendan Dassey and Blaine got off the same bus at the same time. They walked down the gravel road and they both went home. They never saw anybody. They didn't see Stephen. They didn't see Teresa. They didn't see a smoking burn barrel. They saw nothing.
And they both matched. Their stories matched when they first told them.
The first time they told this story, it was 100% correct. They complemented each other. They were told that they were withholding information. And all of a sudden, Brendan Dassey changed his narrative twice based on what Skolinski said. And now Blaine changes his narrative, right?
Yep.
But to make matters worse, guys, can we have a look at the next slide? Now, remember, Fassbender had interrogated Brendan. Now, would someone like to read this out, please?
Sure, I'll do Fassbender.
I could. Who would like to do Brendan?
I'll do it.
Okay, let's go for it, guys. So this is one of the interrogation sessions.
Did you see Stephen when you came home from school, or any time up to until the point you went to Stephen's house? Did you see him go to the burning barrel with anything?
No.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
After you went into the house, did Stephen go to the burning barrel at any time?
Not that I know of.
All right. So, so now they talk to Brendan, and Brendan goes, "Hey, he clearly just went home and he didn't see anything. Look what Blaine said." And remember, both brothers got off the bus at the same time and walked to the same location, right? Who would like to read this one out?
Well, I think
Susan
Susan should do. Yeah, she's got to do Crass.
Okay. I was going to
Just
say, I'll
Rhonda.
read whatever. Yeah, I can read.
Would you like
Go
to
ahead.
read the
Go ahead,
answers?
Rhonda. I make myself sick if I read crap.
Oh, you want me to read the Kratz? Oh, God.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's just going to be, okay. Question. Now, on the 31st of October, as you were approaching your house, as you got off the bus, and you said you were walking down towards your house, did you see anything as you were walking towards your house?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury what you saw, please?
I seen Stephen Avery bring in a plastic bag to the burning barrel.
What burn barrel are you talking about?
The burn barrel.
Whose burn barrel?
Stephen's.
Well, now, guys, have a look at this. If you line them up, Brendan says, "I didn't see Stephen go to any burn barrel." And the other brother, Blaine, who walked with Brendan to their home, goes, "Yep, I saw Stephen come out of his house and put something in his burn barrel." Now, guys, is this what you call a conflict statement here?
Yeah.
All right.
Obviously.
So how can you make any sense on anything said by these guys?
You can't. It's unreliable.
But
Absolutely.
Well, what I'm saying is they're being pressured and manipulated.
Right.
Kayla said it in Cam. She was too.
Correct.
Yep.
So why would Blaine? What? Because someone asked the question. Why would
Don
Blaine?
said it too.
Yes. Why would Blaine lie on November the 7th? What's the motivation of him to lie on November the 7th? Now, remember, the November the 7th is before any of the bones were found. So why would Blaine lie and say, "I did not see Stephen"?
I don't know. I can't answer that.
Yeah, no motive.
What is it? And Brendan, what's the motive for him to lie now? If he saw his uncle go to the burn barrel, why would he lie? And I'll tell you what, I didn't show the testimony of Brendan Dassey during his trial, but basically, during one of his interrogations, I asked him, "Did you go to the burn barrel?" And he goes, "Yes." Remember Jack 61?
Yeah,
And they
I do.
asked him, "Why did you go to the burn barrel?" "Oh, because it was full." And they said, "Did you see the purse and electronics?" "Yes." "Or how did you see that, Brendan?" "I was able to see underneath the rubbish bags." And they Fassbender and Wiegert must have been looking at each other thinking, how in the hell can think about it? He's a young kid. He's now going to divert his pathway to a burn barrel on the property because he thought it was full. So quite clearly, guys, quite clearly, Brendan Dassey and also Blaine Dassey are not reliable witnesses.
No.
Yet Blaine was used to push the narrative that Stephen had burnt the electronics.
That's right.
T1 also had a very good statement. He said,
yes,
Brendan passed his lie detector test on his original story.
Correct. 100% correct. So, guys, this is the type of crap that Kratz and others presented in a court of law. When these guys are changing their statements left, right, and center. And a lot of them now are saying, I was manipulated, I was pressured by law enforcement to change my statement.
Look at what they did to look at what they did to Jody. Seriously. Look at what they did to Jody to get her to flip, and she never would.
And look, I do agree with Ziggy. Blaine is in a lot of trouble because Blaine actually said to Kathleen Zona, I'd never search for any pornography or anything like that. That cannot be the case. So Blaine...
We don't know if Blaine did. Why can't that be the case?
True. But a lot of people are saying that a lot of the searches were done when Blaine was on the computer. And
we don't know that. We don't know.
Not
100%.
No. Not 100%. No.
Sure.
The fact is, I think all the kids did.
I do too. I 4 boys at those ages.
All the boys.
Yeah.
All the boys likely did.
I raised 5 boys as a single mother, single parent.
Yes.
Trust me, I never knew from one boy to the next who was looking at porn on the computer. Never knew.
Of course. Right.
And I'll tell you that when I would confront one, he would point the finger at everybody else and say, it was them, not me.
Yeah.
So whatever.
Yeah.
They're boys.
Correct.
That's right.
The boys are boys. Correct. 100% agree. But my point here is that in a criminal trial, when you're reliant on eyewitness testimony, you got to take it with a grain of salt. Guys, would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, Blaine should have said in his affidavit, I may have, or at some point I probably did, and not just said, no, I never did that. That's my opinion.
He could have seen Stephen taking the trash out on Tuesday or Wednesday.
That too.
Correct.
That's right.
Correct. 100% correct. And that's why, and we're not going to divert into the computer stuff. For the courts of law, they're not going to care a damn any computer search that was done after Teresa Halbach was murdered. So any computer search after October the 31st, they're going to say, what's that proof? You need to actually prove that a particular individual was looking at torture porn right up to the day that Teresa Halbach allegedly was murdered on October the 31st.
That's right.
Anything after that, they'll say, well, what does that prove?
It's irrelevant at that point.
It's irrelevant. It becomes irrelevant. Correct. 100% correct. So it's true. I do agree with what Ziggy said. You've got to be very, very careful on who you use. Potentially they can lie in affidavits. It's a real messy. And like we've been saying all along, when people recall events, they get the times wrong. They get the days wrong. They say, oh, yeah, I remember my uncle going to the burn barrel, but was it on October the 31st? Was it one day prior? Was it one day after? Like, it's interesting how Brenda actually said in Cam, oh, first of all, everyone denied that Stephen had a fire. Remember what they said? Remember what she said? Bobby Dassey didn't know. The other people didn't know. And then suddenly they remembered. So quite clearly, having a fire in a rural area, either in a burn pit or a burn barrel, big deal. Right, guys?
It's nothing.
This is like Wisconsin.
Right. It means absolutely zero. Again, unless you're burning something really weird that would, stick in your brain, it's irrelevant.
Correct. And as far as I'm aware, please correct me if I'm wrong, the only person that smelt a foul odor was Travis
That's right.
Growell. And Travis Growell, where he was near the rock crusher, the wind wasn't blowing anywhere near his direction. It was going in the opposite direction. And isn't it interesting that Luth alerted near the rock crusher?
He did.
Right? And right across from where Travis Growell is, in that area, is the Manitowoc County gravel pit, where now they acknowledge that human remains were found.
The live scent dog alerted, you're saying?
Live scent dog, correct. Live scent dog,
Not
correct.
very confusing. One thing I learned from all this dog stuff is a live scent dog, nothing matters if they don't actually find the person they're looking for. You can't rely on anything.
The source.
Yeah, that's what they're there for. They're there to find a living person.
Correct.
And if you don't find that person, there's nothing.
If you can't find the living person, then you have to speculate how the scent source got there. The live scent. And that's precisely what Sarah Faust did to explain Luth's action on the burn.
What exactly were they smelling? I mean,
correct. 100% correct. All right. So, I'm not sure about the burn barrel. There's a lot of conflicting statements regarding the burning barrel, but there's no doubt electronics and other equipment were found in the burn barrel. Did Stephen burn things in his burn barrel on October the 31st? Hey, have a look at the statements. They're totally contradictory. And the other thing that makes no sense, if Steve is building a great big whopping fire, why not put everything in the one spot?
Right. Why would he need a fire in the burn barrel?
Why draw attention to having a fire in remember, this is Halloween. There was talk about having a bonfire, inviting people over, having a bonfire. Fires attract attention.
I bet they were all over the county.
In Brendan's very first interview in Crivets, when they pulled the car over, he says that they were going to have a bonfire on Thursday.
Had a fight.
Invited some of his buddies, and they had both called and backed out.
Yep,
that's correct.
That was his very first story.
That's 100% correct. And the big issue here is that I think Brendan told the truth the very first time he said his narrative. Even when he wrote the response to Michael O'Kelly. And Michael O'Kelly looked at him and said, "Who's missing from here?" And he goes, "I don't know. Teresa's missing from here." So he had to change his narrative to write another version of events because they never believed him. That's the main problem. He told the truth. He passed his polygraph test. They didn't accept it. They can't accept it until he changed his story and narrative, until they finally nodded their head and said, "Yeah, now we believe you."
Yeah, good boy, Brendan. After they warped him over, makes me sick. T1 had a good comment. Re-highlight that one, Ron. It's up a little bit. No, the one about the zipper message. Yeah, if prosecution and law enforcement conspired to suppress Zipper's voicemail and original timeline, no one on the Avery salvage yard is guilty of murdering Teresa.
That's correct, because she left the property.
And what's on Kratz's exhibit list 1 month prior to trial? It's that freaking voicemail from the Zippers seized. So where the hell is it? It's a real sticking point for me. Thank you, T1, for reminding me.
Thank you. Yep, correct. And that's why trying to put together a timeline based on witness statements, you're going to be in big trouble because nothing is consistent. Nothing is consistent.
No.
All right, Jack 61. Do we have a couple of more slides?
We do. Can we go to the next slide?
Yes, please. Yes, please. So this is what bothers me. The narrative is very much that Stephen didn't have the Suzuki nor the Skidoo inside the garage. He had them outside, and then he hid Teresa Horbach's RAV4 in that garage. Does anyone believe that narrative?
No, I don't.
Why is that? Why is that, Jack 61?
Well, number one, I mean, just looking at this, you got a disaster to move first. I mean, just look at the hood of that Suzuki. You got all kinds of crap on that thing that's going to have to be set off. You wouldn't roll it out there with all that stuff on it. I just don't believe it. You got to move that Skidoo out of the way. There's something in front of that Suzuki as well. I don't know what, some kind of ladder or something. I just don't believe it.
Correct. In fact, that if you look right at the front, that yellow, that's the geodometer. They're taking a 3D map, 3D images of the So what Cam are claiming, because Brendan Dassey said it, that they backed in Teresa Horbach's RAV4 inside there. And remember, one of the first narratives was that Teresa Horbach was placed in her own RAV4 and shot in her own RAV4 until Wiegert said to Brendan, no, that can't be right. So he changed his story 3 times where they in actual fact had shot Teresa Horbach.
Right.
Yep. All right. Do we have any?
I don't. Rhonda, I can't. I'm not on that screen. Rhonda, you got any? Or Susan, got any comments? Cherie.
Well, I got nothing. Go ahead.
Yep.
Okay.
State Advocate Ziggy says, didn't Stephen bring both of those home from Crivets on the 30th? That's what he tells Jody. I haven't heard him telling Jody that. I know he brought the snowmobile. She asked him why he brought the snowmobile back, and he said that he was thinking about selling it to help pay for her bills.
Yes, I do remember that.
Or trading. Did he say trading it? God, I just listened to that call.
I thought he said selling it.
But he didn't mention the Suzuki.
No.
Mm-mm.
My understanding was that the Suzuki at one stage was on the side of the garage, and then he bought it. And Earl was questioning why he would do that. I mean, if Stephen was working on the Suzuki, would it make proper sense to actually bring in the Suzuki in the garage and work on it there?
Absolutely.
He wouldn't work on it.
While you're working on it.
Yeah.
He may not want it in there if he's not working on it.
Yes, to answer Danny's question, the cadaver dogs were on the property, or put it this way. No, the cadaver dogs, they arrived on November the 5th. November the 5th. That's the very same day the RAV4 was found.
They arrived first, and then these last scent dogs arrived later that afternoon.
Yep.
That's right, Ziggy. That 30th call.
Okay.
Says he brought the Suzuki home. I mean the
Skidoo.
No, I think that was the Skidoo, not the Suzuki. The Suzuki he had there for a couple of weeks, I think.
The Suzuki apparently wasn't running. The Suzuki, from what I've read, wasn't running. It had a transmission problem, according to Earl. Yep.
Yeah.
All
Transmission and something else.
Yeah. All right. Can we have a look at the next slide, please, Jack 61? I think what we'll do a couple of more clips, and we'll probably call it for tonight. and we'll continue tomorrow. Is everybody happy with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Sure.
because we answered a lot of questions. So this is what was shown on cam. So basically what they're stating is that Stephen had Teresa Horbach's RAV4 backed up in his garage. Now, does anyone believe that?
I don't. No, I do not.
No, because I don't believe he killed her.
Right. So what do we make of this, guys? What do we make of this? Did they actually confirm that Teresa's RAV4 was backed up in Stephen's garage? Or is it just what Brendan Dassey said?
It's just what Brendan said. And, you know, they went further in that animation that we've already played from, I think, episode 8, where Stephen would literally just about have to be laying prone in the garage. I don't know why he would do that to have made at least one of those gunshots. And this bullet out of MFL ends up somehow under the air compressor.
Correct.
But there's no blood. There's no blood spatter. I guess on the lawnmower, that back left tire, or anything on the back end of it. And I just have to believe there would have been. I can't prove that. I can't prove that.
Yep. According to the state, Teresa Horbach was shot at least twice in the skull and 8 times in the body. And there's no evidence of any blood spatter or micro spray of blood that belongs to Teresa Horbach on the outside of the RAV4. Right?
That too.
There was none on the gun barrel, nothing whatsoever. There was no evidence of any blood that had seeped into any concrete. There was no evidence of any blood that went on any of the equipment in the garage. No microspray, no evidence. In fact, I found not one DNA molecule of Teresa Horbach in the garage, unless you're talking about Ida MFL, right?
Until 4 months later.
Correct.
Wow. Correct. Adam FL's got its own problems, and we've had that discussion. I'm sure we'll have it again, but
yeah, we've had. But what is interesting is that someone actually asked the question, and Jack61, if we're going to have a look at the next slide, because the next slide is a absolute ripper, right? And the question is, all right, now when they questioned Brendan Dassey, they said, right, what did you do? He stated that both him and his uncle took the RAV4 and they drove down the gravel road. This is according to what Brendan initially told Fassbender and Uyghur. So, Jack61, if you just blow up the left-hand side a little bit, that picture. So, according to Brendan, both him and his uncle went inside Teresa's RAV4, went out of the garage, drove past his mother's house, right? His own mum's house, drove past Mama Avery's house, right? Went around the corner, drove past Chucky's house, drove past the crusher, and went all the way down to the pit and dumped the car. They got some car parts, twigs, trees, bits and pieces, and tried to camouflage the car. They've obviously taken the number plates off the car, right? And somehow both Brendan and Stephen walked home from the yard. I'm not sure what time they brought the RAV down there, but nobody saw a RAV going in that direction there. And they both walked home. Nobody noticed anything, nothing at all. So that's what Brendan said. Now, if you go to the right-hand side, there's a bit of an issue with what Brendan told Fassbender and Uyghur. And that is, if you have a look at the red boxes, that means there's an absence of dog tracks. No cadaver dogs, no scent dogs, nothing. So one would expect Teresa's life scent would be present in that RAV4 as they're driving it. As they're driving it down the gravel road, as they're driving it past Chucky's place, as they're driving it past the crusher, there's no dog tracks. No interest there.
The what's his name? Our canine, Scooby's canine friend,
Mhm.
said that you wouldn't necessarily get live scent
Mhm.
off of a car. You could if the
Mhm.
right conditions,
Mhm.
the windows were down, and
Mhm.
so
You're
on
talking
and
about
so
Jeff.
forth.
You're talking about Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff and Zoe.
Which
So,
is
you wouldn't necessarily get her
yes,
live
yes.
scent. You, you might get the cadaver dog. I don't
Mhm.
know if it's in a
Okay.
car.
Now, here's the interesting thing. Did a cadaver dog alert on any structures near that zone?
Not that I'm aware of. No. No.
Yeah, but
They alerted at Chuck's
they
trailer.
alerted at Chuck's front door and bedroom. Brutus did. Brutus alerted.
That's
so,
right.
So
Yeah.
hence, if they drove the RAV and potentially there's some scent of death, don't you think maybe Brutus would have been showing any type of interest in that particular area?
I don't know.
Maybe. It's. I don't know. I don't know, Doc. We'd
All
need
right.
we'd need Jeff or
Oh,
some expert
absolutely.
to help us.
Absolutely. So have a look at all the dog tracks in yellow. That's
Yeah.
all of them. All the dog tracks. What does that tell you about where the dogs are spending most of their time?
Well,
On
off the property. I mean,
on the property or off the property?
off the property.
Now,
Yeah.
off
I mean,
the property.
That's
Right?
all of the dog tracks?
That's the dog tracks.
Was it
Correct.
all those dogs they had?
Correct. That's a combination of the dog tracks. Now,
well,
some
of those that we have reports on, there are
That's
some dogs we do not have reports of what they did and where they went.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes
I
sense
believe
because how many dogs did they have? That was an ungodly number.
they had two. I think they had two bloodhounds, Loof and I think Raz, and they had quite a few cadaver dogs. Now, those dog tracks in yellow, I believe, are the scent dogs.
Oh, okay.
Dogs, right?
Oh.
Kathleen Zellner actually has a couple of maps that show the cadaver dogs where they hit, right? But here's something that I don't understand because I'm having a really good discussion with ODog on X, and he believes that Stephen drove the RAV4 across the cornfield. You see those yellow tracks?
Yeah.
Now, isn't it interesting that Loof does not go down the pathway that Brendan said, past his mum's house, Mama Avery's house and Chuck's place to the crusher, but Loof somehow went west. So what's Loof actually detecting? If the RAV4 drove across that field, what is Loof actually detecting?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Now, is it
But
live scent? Is it live scent? It has to be live scent.
You would think so.
I would think so too.
How? You remember Jeff, the expert? He goes, it's very hard for live scent to escape from a car unless you've got the windows down, air conditioning blowing out.
Driving very slow. Yeah.
Driving very slow. So why did Loof go west to cuss? What's Loof following?
I don't, Doc.
Don't know.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Where's he actually alerting? You know, just the track doesn't really tell you everything.
Loof, yeah, that's correct. Loof showed very high activity at the police tape at Cuss Road. Wanted to cross the police tape, but Pagel said no. And do you see the track on the western berm, the up and down motion on the western berm?
Yeah.
To your right, that's track 6.
Yeah.
That's where Sarah Fausk is saying that live scent from Stephen's burn pit blew over and accumulated on the western berm.
Yeah, and
I'll
it's always
also say that if you notice that where she says Luke alerted up there, that
Yes.
is just west of all the cars. Okay, it's not west of the trailer.
Correct.
But when you read, was that today you read that about Brutus? It said it was just west of Stephen's trailer. So it's actually two different spots.
Brutus also went to the western that berm that goes up and down. He also alerted there as well. Showed activity there. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Again, another thing that puzzles me, and I know we can't answer it. It's just an observation. When Luke goes from the yard here down the cornfield towards Cuss Road,
yes.
But all this scent is supposed to be in this berm area. Why didn't he divert? Why didn't he pull and say, "Hey, we got something here"? What was he tracking? And I need to understand that. I think we all do to really have it right in our mind. What the hell's going on here with?
I think that's the area where she said on a fence line he was.
There's a fence line. Correct.
There,
Correct.
where you just had your cursor.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
The western berm is over by the yard.
Yeah, correct. By the yard, correct. So what is very interesting is this. I put up a post on X actually. I showed all the maps, wind direction, everything, and I said, look, if there's a canine, because we're not canine experts, we're not.
No.
Right. I put up the comment on X saying, Rob, look, if you're a canine expert, can you please explain the differences between track 3 and track 6? So in track 3, Loof goes across the cornfield and is stopped by Pagel. Loof does not immediately go to the western berm, right? Goes right across the cornfield, stops. But then there's another track by Loof, I think it's track 4, where Loof starts at Cuss Road, goes around the trailers and goes all the way down, completely bypasses the ponds and the berm, right? Goes straight down and then ends up in the quarry and then comes back up, right? Goes where the rock crusher location is. That's on the 7th. On the 8th, Sarah Fausk wanted to repeat track 3 without being stopped at Cuss Road. Loof goes to Cuss Road, goes up to where the trailers are, goes around the trailers, but this time diverts into the ponds and goes to the western berm, right? So suddenly there's a change in Loof in where she tracked. He now tracks towards the western berm. 1 day prior, on 2 tracks, she doesn't go to the western berm. So, guys, what happened between the 7th and the 8th that made him change direction? And because we're not a canine expert, I can't say. But you have to admit, that's a very interesting observation, right?
Very.
And, Scooby makes the point again. Without corroboration, which is Teresa, you cannot know what Luke was smelling and following.
Exactly. Because that's their job, is to reach the goal, to reach the source.
Yeah, he's searching, but he never finds her. So you can't, you really can't put any weight on those tracks at all.
Yeah.
Correct. So what is truly amazing is that Sarah Fausk was never called up in the courts to present her dog tracks or to discuss them. But now in Convicting a Murderer, all of a sudden they are a big deal and the aha moment. And so now a lot of people and researchers are saying, oh my God, how did Teresa's live scent get on that western berm? And Sarah Fausk put the hypothesis that the ashes of Teresa Hallbach from Stephen's burn pit somehow accumulated and spiked on the western berm. And I checked the weather conditions, I checked the wind direction. the wind was going in the opposite direction on the night of October the 31st.
I checked three places myself. I checked three places, Doc, and the prevailing wind was from the northwest.
Correct. And had Loof gone to Bob Yunder's trailer and alerted there, you would go, oh shit. Never did, right? Because the wind was going directly where her trailer is, in that direction. Loof never went there. Loof was going to the west, right? Have a look at all those tracks. Predominantly, it's in the western region, right? It's in the opposite direction to where the wind was blowing. So if you're saying, okay, live scent somehow got to the western region, somehow got to Cuss Road, how?
Yeah.
How did it do that? If Stephen drove the RAV4 to Cuss Road, and I still can't answer Susan's question, where is the scent source coming from? And if Stephen brought the RAV4 with Teresa there, what did he do with Teresa at Cuss Road? And furthermore, if he had killed Teresa Horbach at Cuss Road, why drive the RAV4 back to your property and dump it? And don't say it's because he was going to crush the car, because he was going to, he would have done it immediately. He's not going to leave the car there from the 31st, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and half day of the 5th in the hope that no one sees it and spots it. Because remember, it's got his blood in it. He, according to the state, he's actively bleeding. So therefore, why would he go all the way back from Cuss, past the deer camp, and then dump the car in his own backyard? That doesn't make any sense. And here's the crazy thing. According to Brendan, they used paint thinner, gasoline, and bleach to clean the garage floor. All Stephen had to do was bring the RAV4 off the property, 1 can of gasoline, 1 flare, goodbye forensic evidence. Guys, would you agree?
Absolutely.
Gone, finished.
Burnt to the frame.
So why is Stephen now taking the high risk action of being seen driving a vehicle across a cornfield? Because remember, Redon's workers are there. They can see. There's the deer camp there. If anybody's there, they're probably wondering, what the hell is this car doing driving across a cornfield, right?
He could have done it in the middle of the night. I mean,
that's true. That is true. But the workers, Redon's quarry, as far as I'm aware, it works 24/7.
Some days it does, yeah.
Yeah.
I know it. I know they definitely work till worked a second shift, till 11 or maybe midnight or something like that. I can't recall, but I know that there were times that they did. I think they did have to work overnight for certain orders. Anyway,
but a vital clue comes from Travis Growell, that he smelt a foul odor on the night of October the 31st, that I think was about 6 o'clock or something like that. And Josh Redon sees what appears to be a burn barrel fire at about, 5:30, something like that. I have to look up the slides. So that foul smell, guess what, guys? What is present in the Manitowoc County gravel pit? 3 dump sites containing human bones.
Yep.
So think about it. What's Travis Growell likely going to smell? Something right next to him or all the way from Stephen Avery's burn pit?
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't make any sense. If Growell is going to smell something, it's likely closer towards him than further away, right? And the wind wasn't going in his direction. So it meant that if someone was cremating a body part or a body, it had to be somewhere close to where he was, not that distance away. And then it begs the question, why on earth is Stephen now going all the way to the Manitowoc County gravel pit in 3 separate dumping human bones, Teresa's bones?
And we can't forget about Mitchell's materials.
And Mickle's quarry, correct. 100% correct. That's why, guys, the narrative does not make sense. Whether you believe Stephen Avery is guilty or not, same with Brendan. You got to admit, nothing is adding up. There's something weird, really weird going on here.
Yeah, I agree.
Correct. Guys, do we have any more questions?
Nope.
Okay, I reckon we do one more, and that's it. What do you reckon, guys?
Yeah,
Is it a clip or a slide? What do we
One
have?
more. No, we can play one more clip.
Yeah.
Yeah, are you happy, guys?
Sure.
Okay,
Just a second.
let's go for it. Check 61.
I'm going to take this down.
Yep.
And this is going to be clip number 4. All right, here we go.
Awesome.
These bad cops say we don't have enough. Let's put a little of Teresa's DNA on that. They must have saved some.
Put it under the air compressor against the wall in the garage.
Again, if these bad cops are setting Stephen up, are they gonna hide this stuff like that? They want it to be found. I don't think so.
Every road is a dead end that provides zero proof that any planting took place.
There's nothing that would indicate that Avery was framed and that somebody else killed Teresa Hallback.
Well, you know, that the bullet thing, you know, would they put it there? Well, they're there to meticulously search that garage. They took everything out of that garage. You're not going to, if you're planting it, you're not going to put it in the middle of the floor where it would have been found 3 months earlier.
No.
You've got to make it, you know, kind of indiscreet. They're going to find it because they're taking everything out.
Correct. And in my opinion, just my opinion, police did not plant item FL. Right? They did not plant item FL. There's a problem in the crime lab with item FL that can be easily explained. That can be easily explained by contamination. Right? That's why you have this straw man argument continuously all the time, where our own intelligences are being insulted by saying, what? Somebody came and painted a bit of Teresa Hallback's DNA on the bullet and just stuck it under the compressor. Of course,
ridiculous.
Of course not, right? No one's going around with buckets of Teresa's DNA, but the entire premise of item FL can easily be destroyed and debunked by one contamination error at Culhane's workbench. That's it. No grand conspiracy. No grand conspiracy. Okay, you can easily explain it. It's an experimental error. We know it's an experimental error because of the contamination of the PCR negative control. Guys, move on. Move on. And as Susan said, that bullet wasn't found for what? Months?
4 months, 5 months.
Sitting on concrete, sitting on dust, you name it. Nobody missed it. Nobody picked it up until Wiegert tells Brendan who shot her in the head. Otherwise, think about this. You would never have found item FL. You would have never got the hood latch swab either. Right?
And they also moved Brendan into the garage.
Correct. 100% correct. Yep.
Yep.
All right. Guys, do we have anything else? And do we have any questions?
There may be some questions that are starred. I don't know if Rhonda's still here or not. Do we have questions that we need to get to? Maybe answer a few before we get out?
Yeah, for sure. Let me get them. I'll just...
No, I don't think... I just want to make a comment on Mr. President's comment there. I'm pretty sure that all the tests are tracked by computer in the lab. You can't just say you tested something and not test it.
Correct.
Say you did. right?
Correct. Yep. All samples are placed in the computer, and it's all registered. You can't go in and alter the data. That's the whole idea. Remember, these guys are a crime laboratory. That's why Sharik O'Hain could not just simply say, "Oops, I'll just put in
and delete it."
I delete the negative control contamination and say, I've got a perfect contamination control. It's all good. The PCR negative control, all clear. The trouble is when you put your samples in the computer has a record of every sample that goes in, right? So therefore you can't go in and manipulate the results. That's why Sharik O'Hain had to get a deviation request form to say, how am I going to get this piece of evidence submitted into the courtroom? Correct.
Yeah, and that's that's another thing they didn't mention in finding IMFL. Anything about these 4 or 5 months passing before they found it. They didn't say anything at all about that.
No, but what to me is a little bit disturbing is that they kept Kathleen Zellner and her experts completely out of convicting a murderer. Have you noticed that, guys?
That's right. But they did want to bring in this whole discussion about the dogs. That was not in MAM at all.
That's 100% correct. So wherever Kathleen Zellner used experts to counteract the state's own arguments, they never presented it. But what they did present is something that never made it into the courts of law, a theory, a hypothesis. So normally what would have happened is if the defense had their own canine experts, they would have grilled Fausk on every one of those dog tracks, every one. And they would have asked her, right, what does your dog detect? Sir, my dog detects live scent. 2, if you're saying that my client put Teresa Hallbach in a fire, what type of scent does that produce? Your Honor, it produces the scent of death, right? Because you're burning the skin.
Right.
You're burning the body. You're burning the organs. You're not going to produce live odorants, no matter what you believe, from a combustion event. You put your hand on a flame, you burn yourself. You're not producing live scent.
You just killed a bunch.
You're producing the odorants of death. This is something that a cadaver dog or a dog designed to track ash detects. Loof is not that type of dog. Loof is a live scent dog, right? So, not being disrespectful, but if you're cremating somebody on a fire, they're not going to be starting to produce live scent because the fire is a combustion source. Your skin is extremely sensitive to heat.
Yep.
It's not going to survive. You produce live scent, wait for it, when you're alive, not when you're being cremated, right? So therefore, the weakness of her hypothesis is destroyed immediately. Jack 61.
Yeah, before we get to Brendan Boswell's question, I just have one comment about Item FL that you're talking about the experts. That bullet has been destroyed because of what was found embedded in that bullet, and it wasn't skull, it wasn't bone, it was wood and red paint and a little bit of wax.
Yeah,
I've had people try to hypothesize that as that bullet skid across the dirty garage floor, it picked up wood and paint and fibers from cloths.
No. The important thing is that Kathleen Zellner herself reproduced Item FL by firing a bullet, a .22 bullet, directly into the garage wall, which meant that you have reproduced Item FL. And it was very simple. It meant that a .22 caliber bullet hit a garage wall at high velocity in order to embed wooden shards. Item FL, chuck it out right now. Throw it out.
Well, again, this goes back to what Fassbender was alluding to in episode 8, that this bullet fired that Stephen allegedly fired through Teresa's skull. It went through her brain, and then exited out and still remained as intact as it was.
which
I'm
is
sorry.
insane. Which is
It
insane.
isn't. It would have destroyed that bullet. It was a hollow. Well, it could have been a hollow point because I know that there
Well,
was some there.
Well, Luke Haig reproduced the firing of .22 bullets through bone from bovine shoulders from bovines. And what he showed was when he put ballistic gel between the two bovine pieces that resembled the thickness of a human skull, as soon as the bullet hit the very first bone, it didn't have enough penetrating power to go straight through.
Right.
Therefore, .22 bullet hasn't got the capacity for an inside and outside shot, a through and through shot. And the state even admitted that they found no exit wounds, no cranial bone fragments with exit wounds. And Kratz even said it in his book. If we had to advance that theory, we would have had to have found cranial bone fragments with exit wounds, which is very disturbing because 35% of the skull was recovered. Where's the rest of it?
That's right.
Yeah. So Ida Befel, I think, is in big trouble.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any more, guys?
Any more questions, Rhonda, Susan, that are starred?
Yeah. Well, we haven't even gotten to any of them yet. So, but I mean, some of them may have been answered already by now, but I'm just going to put them on the screen and you can address them.
Kahuna asked a very interesting question. If we can have that one back up.
Yeah.
Someone want to read out the question?
So the life scent was at the cul-de-sac. What is the cul-de-sac? Teresa got out of her car in the cul-de-sac. She opened the rear hatch. She was accidentally shot.
Well, isn't that interesting? She couldn't have been accidentally shot. No, because the blood spray on the back cargo door is not fine mist. It's actually Kathleen Zellner's experts reproduced it. It's by being struck in the head with some blunt, heavy metal object, right, Jack 61, the one that no one can find anymore. But you do raise a very interesting point. It's something that people forget. How about if Teresa Halbach actually drove to Cuss Road on her own volition? Whether she had a hustle shot organized or something like that, we don't know, right? Because Loof went down there. And at Cuss Road, there was a clandestine burial site. According to the state, it was just a peat moss bag and a rotting wooden pallet. And
Brutus hit on it. But Brutus hit on that.
I've had arguments with ODOG, a really good debate, and he's saying that no, Brutus smelt methane gas. The problem is that these dogs are trained on not just methane gas, because if it's just methane gas, you're going to have false negatives, false positives everywhere, right? So Julie Kramer would have said, I'm sorry, guys, I can't go in this wooded area. Why not? Oh, my dog may detect peat moss, methane from the peat moss. These dogs are trained on a cocktail of chemicals where a cadaver, someone who's obviously dead, produces a cocktail of odorants which signify death. They don't just pick up methane, right? So now you have to now account for two things. A negative hit by Loof, or Loof just went down there, was an error, no life scent. Two, Brutus, a trained cadaver dog, no. He detected methane gas. So now, and also the other argument is, I had with Jamie, 3 cadaver dogs in Mickle's Quarry all hit on the same thing. All of them were wrong.
Yeah.
Right? So now 3 cadaver dogs, 3 different dog handlers that are trained to detect human decomposition hit upon tissue and blood in Mickle's Quarry, according to Culhane, wasn't human. That means that 3 cadaver dogs made 3 mistakes.
Hey, thanks for coming, Phaedrax.
Yeah. Yep. So, you know, it's like this, right? Do you accept the dogs? Yes or no? Or do you selectively select what is correct and what's not correct? Because
Right.
Brutus had a 100% record on the Avery salvage yard, right, guys?
Yes.
He had a 100% record. He hit on the RAV. He was correct. He hit inside Stephen Avery's bathroom. He was correct. He hit on the burn barrel. He was correct. He didn't hit on the burn pit.
No.
Had a very interesting discussion with Jamie. He goes, "Oh, the dog wasn't working, as in working the pit. But the problem is, these dogs detect human decomposition. If Teresa Horbach was cremated right there in the burn pit, how do you explain a cadaver dog walking straight past the burn pit and going all the way across to the burn barrel, which is much further away, that had, I think, 4 bone fragments and hit on 2 burn barrels, yet walked past right through the highest concentration of death odorants straight past?"
Right.
I've got no answer.
No.
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 All right. Do we have any more questions?
Yeah, we got a couple more. Rhonda?
I'm just going to put them on the screen as you answer them.
Yeah.
Okay. From Brendan, question: did Buting and String have the dog reports of loose track to Cuss Road? Yeah, as far as I know, everything was turned. All the dog reports were turned over in discovery.
They did not discuss Loof at all.
No.
During any of the trials. None.
Okay, the next question
Okay,
is from Danny.
From Danny Nellis. Would it
Yeah,
be
go
the
ahead.
state or just the county working with CAM to get their version out and feeding them the calls you can't get?
Well, we discovered that Brenda Schuller is a good friend of Tom Fassbender and Andy Colburn, and a very good friend of Colburn, because how many emails did they exchange between each other? 4,000?
Yeah, there's thousands of messages between the three of them. Yeah, 4,000, I think was the
Right.
number.
So CAM represented law enforcement. It was their opportunity to provide their version of events.
Yeah,
Correct.
we don't, there's been that suggestion that, that the state is kind of on the side under the sly, helped in some way with convicting murder. We have no proof of that, but certainly I think they would want to get some kind of message out there. They got their meat hooks in, and anything they can get out there to keep those hooks in, so much the better.
Fassbender certainly played a big role in CAM.
Huge role. But it's
He
interesting
stayed.
that Wiegert did not participate.
Yeah.
I find that really, really interesting.
Not correct. Do we? Kahuna's got another
Okay.
question.
Yep.
Kahuna 314. Why did the trial counsel not use the dog reports? They contained exculpatory evidence.
Well, the thing is that there wasn't enough emphasis at all on the dogs.
No.
There really wasn't enough evidence presentation about the dog tracks and what they found and what they didn't find. And one of the most exculpatory pieces of evidence is the fact that Brutus went inside the trailer and only alerted in the bathroom area. And there was blood droplets belonging to Stephen on the ground and in the sink. So Brutus was 100% correct. If all that mayhem and torture, bloodletting, a person being chained up in a bed with leg irons and handcuffs, if that really happened, do you honestly believe you're going to fool a human remains detection dog? As
No
in
way.
forensically clean up so good that a dog doesn't even give half a bark?
We've got close-up photos of that bedroom. It was not clean. Fassbender went on Dr. Phil or one of them damn shows and says Stephen scoured that bedroom, that trailer. No, he didn't. It was not scoured. I'm not going to say it was a pigsty, but it wasn't clean.
No. And after they tore the place apart, they literally took the wood paneling, they took the bed apart, the bed head, the bedpost, they ripped out the carpet, including the carpet in the hallway.
That's right.
Including that, and they've shown, forensic scientists have shown, you may use a rug doctor on the top, but the blood soaks through down to the bottom. All you do is you turn the carpet over, luminol spray, and go, oh shit, here it is. They found, how much did they find, Jack 61?
0. Goose egg.
So here's my question. I'm having a great argument with Jamie. At what is your tipping point? When do you say enough's enough? You go in there with a cadaver dog, you go in there with detectives, you tear the place apart, you luminol treat, you search for DNA, you search for forensic evidence, and you come up with
nothing. Well, and that goes back to what I said at the beginning of the show. It all comes down to the integrity of the investigation. That's why I have so many questions, because it doesn't pass the smell test for me, and my radar goes off and says, what? It's not about me being an Avery fan or I mean, I feel strongly for Brendan. I really do. I think he just got screwed. And I have kids his age, so of course it bothers me deeply. But it's about the integrity of the investigation and what they did and what they didn't do.
100% correct. You call it as it is, right? You call it as it is. There's got to be a point when you say, where you have to say, guys, nothing happened here.
Yeah, I mean,
nothing.
How much do you just look past? How much are you willing to compromise and say, well, in the work area, the things happen. How much of that can you let go when you say, okay, we're going to lock up a couple of guys for life, take their life away. They're going to be trapped and they're going to be warehoused in a 8x10 for the rest of their life.
Well, what is interesting? Yeah, sorry, Jack 61.
No, I was just going to say, how much are you willing to let that go? And I know that Jamie doesn't live in the United States, but for me personally, and I know for a lot of people, it comes down to that those ideas that you're really searching for the truth. Maybe it matters in some degree that Stephen's an asshole, but that doesn't make him a murderer. There's a lot of assholes running around the country right now.
Correct. If Brutus had alerted in Stephen's master bedroom, I would have said,
got a problem.
Got a huge problem.
That's right.
Right. So what you're willing to convict them on is what you also got to take into account and exculpate him. Do you understand?
That's right.
The evidence that inculpates, you got to weigh up with the evidence that exculpates. And the evidence, when you look at it, right? See, here's the interesting thing, right? They find Teresa's key inside his bedroom. Instead of the state jumping up and down and saying, Eureka, what did Kratz say in Cam? What did he say?
You guys just fucked up my case.
How on earth can Kratz say that you guys have just fucked up my case when they found the victim's vehicle key inside his bedroom?
That's right.
Right?
And he wanted the jury to just set it aside and ignore it.
Told them to set it aside because he knew that looked so fake and so troubling. He didn't want to touch the key.
No.
What does he do with item FL? What did he say, Susan, in his book? It's the game changer.
That's a game changer.
Yeah. Game changer. Zellner's experts got the bullet, stuck it under a microscope, did forensic analysis on it and said, guys, this never struck bone. This is not the bullet that killed Teresa Orbach. So what does the state do? They backtrack. We don't care about item FL. We don't care about item FL. So do you think the state want to give Zellner the RAV4?
No.
Nope.
Hell no.
No. So if you're confident that Stephen and Brendan are guilty, their DNA must be all over that place, must be all over the RAV4. Give it to her. Test it independently. Prove it one way or another. All
I
right.
agree.
Okay.
Yeah, here we go. So, yeah, that's a good comment. It's about justice for everyone involved. This has ruined many lives. Yeah, I mean, it comes down to we all count or none of us do. I mean, that maybe sound corny to a lot of people, but it has to be that way for everyone. Even if you don't like that person, that has nothing to do with it.
Correct. I like Passive Bear's question. I think it would have made a huge difference had they actually gone out to the salvage yard.
Yes.
They would have looked at the proximity of the burn pit. They would have looked at the whole area. They would have looked at the garage. They would have looked at the trailer. They would have looked at Bus Road, just on that general area. And it's amazing that in the Murdoch trial, each one of the jurors said, being at the property changed our mind. We saw how the crime actually folded out with the shooting of the son inside the room. They said, yep, that's how it happened. So not going there, and look what the state cleverly did to the burn pit. What did they do to the burn pit on November the 11th?
They destroyed it. Yeah, they destroyed it.
They completely flattened it. So people would have gone, the jury would have gone out there and said, that's the burn pit. And what did you say happened in this burn pit? You got to be kidding, right? They would have gone in the garage. They would have seen that it was completely full of stuff, no room for anything. They would have gone inside the trailer thinking, wait a minute, are you trying to say that he completely changed the bedroom? Where's the divot marks on the carpet? Right? So going out there, seeing it, you would have gotten a sense of scale. What did the state do? Probably spent $100,000 or $200,000 doing a 3D map of the whole yard. And you're thinking, you got to be kidding, right? Because they didn't want the jurors out there to have a look at the property. Because it would have been shaking their heads thinking, you're kidding, right? Opportunity lost. Correct.
Stephen actually did rearrange his bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
He talked to Mom about it on the phone. We just don't know when he did that.
When he did it, correct.
That's right.
Correct.
It could have been done, long before the 31st.
Correct. You know that when Jody was there to October the 31st, there was a bedroom change. Correct.
Yep.
Okay. Any more? It looks like we've got a couple more.
Okay.
I'm struggling whether to highlight some of these comments or not, but if she's changed her name, Barb Anna wants to defend herself, I'm going to let her, and I will highlight hers as well. So
she did.
So that's why I'm just highlighting these comments.
I was talking about the starred comments that you have.
We can look at them. I feel like
we've answered them.
I feel like they've been answered.
Okay, all right. I'm good with that. I'll let you.
But don't worry, guys. Look, we'll be back tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
We'll continue, but guys, you have to admit, at least we're providing a forum for discussion. Correct? We're providing a forum. We're getting tough questions. We can't answer all of them, but we're here. We front it up. We're not hiding. We're not some type of exclusive club hiding. No. We're here. Ask us, and we'll try and answer.
Our Discord is open. As long as you're civil, we're there.
Correct.
If you want to be a jerk, you're gonna get thrown out. It's like on here.
Yep.
Be civil.
If we did the same at anybody else's channel, we too will be thrown out too.
Oh, no doubt. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Not
only thrown out, but we wouldn't be thrown out until we were completely crucified, obliterated, called names, laughed at. So I feel like I feel like we've been as respectful as we've needed to
I
be.
think so.
tonight.
I think.
Yeah,
Plus,
I think so.
Plus, we have our conversations on X, Twitter, wherever like that, and it's been awesome. Okay, sometimes we have to agree to disagree, and that's it. But we're not here. We're not defending anybody. Please, with Brendan, I can't even put him at the crime scene. I honestly can't. Stephen is a different story. There is forensic evidence against him. That's why we're discussing it here, right? So we're not shying away from that. We are discussing the tough stuff.
Right.
But it's interesting, guys. My final comment is this. There's been a shift. No one talks about the blood in the rav anymore. They now talk about the burn pit and the scent going in the air, going on the burn, because if you can prove that Teresa was if that's the primary burn site, then who else would have done it? Had to be Stephen.
That's right.
Now there's a shift in focus from the RAV4 to now the burn pit. And what did the foul play team just spend the last 4-5 months doing? Sorry, Susan. The burn pit, the
That's
dogs.
right.
So
Yep.
we're in a very good position to rebut, Cam. All right. I think we've done over 3 hours. I think we're all brain dead. We call it quits here.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, we can pick it
That's
up. We
fine.
played. We've got 4 clips. I wrote down where we're at.
Beautiful.
I will get the open mic scheduled for tomorrow and we'll just continue on like we're doing.
Yeah. Look, guys. Before I close the podcast, again, thank you so much. We had a lot of people in chat. We had a huge number of questions. Sometimes we have to put a halt to some of the questions because you can't hijack a podcast. Because, like just Rhonda and Susan said, we can spend 7 hours on just one point, right? We've got to move things along because we are doing a rebuttal to
That's
Cam.
right.
I think we're being very, very fair. We're not hiding away from the tough stuff. We're playing the clips and we're giving our opinions. But at the end of the day, guys, you must do your own research, come to your own conclusions.
Yep.
If you believe in their guilt,
Well, the thing is about tonight, we're doing a rebuttal the way that
Correct.
we feel. So somebody comes into chat and tries to rebut our rebuttal.
yeah, correct.
It's
Correct.
like, yeah, it
goes round in
time
circles.
for it. It's not the
No.
time for it.
No, it goes round in circles. All right, guys. Well, look, thank you so much. If you've enjoyed our podcast so far, please subscribe, put your DNA in the thumbs up button, and share our podcast. The more comments we get, all of us here on the panel, we check the comments. We try and answer the questions in chat as best that we can. And thank you so much for your participation. We're going to quickly go around the panel. Tell us how things are happening and what's going on. Jack 61.
Well, thanks, and thanks to everyone. It's been a great time discussing this rebuttal of episode 9, at least as far as we've got. And a lot of the other questions too. But as everyone's talked about, we're trying to rebut what some of the finer points that are in each of these episodes. So we have to keep things moving along. It's not like a open format. That's not what this is about. So, not really apologizing for trying to keep that flow going, because if you don't, you're going to get drug off the side and we'll never get done, as Rhonda said earlier, right? So anyway,
100% correct.
So anyway, I'll get the next one, part 2, scheduled after we get done here in a few minutes for tomorrow evening. It'll be the same time, 5 Central. Appreciate
Awesome.
everyone coming. Yeah, thanks everyone.
Yes, thank you so much, Jack 61. Next we have Just Rhonda. Just Rhonda, how are you coming along?
Hi, Doc. I'm doing well, thank you. Just busy. Got a couple of things I'm working on, but we're rolling right along with accusers in Daniel's case. I feel like we're kind of on a good, steady track. And what we're doing.
That one we just did the other night, Rhonda. Holy crap!
Yeah. pretty interesting.
Shadarian Hill. Oh my God.
Yeah, she's crazy. Well, it's going to get better because this week, this coming Thursday, we're going to read her preliminary
Oh boy.
hearing transcript.
Oh boy.
And so it's, like I say every time, it's going to be interesting. And so, you know, if you haven't been following, if you're here in Foul Play and you haven't been following the stream that Jack does on Thursday nights, you might want to just start checking it out, or just come to my channel and follow us on my channel. And then the following Thursday is Thanksgiving. So I already said I'm not doing a show, and it was going to be for another, so it was going to be like 2 weeks, but I changed my mind. We're going to do, we're not going to do it on Thursday. I can't possibly do it on Thursday on Thanksgiving Day, but we're going to do it on Friday night instead. We can't wait after we hear her preliminary testimony this coming Thursday. There's no way we can wait 2 weeks. We have to get right back in it. So we'll just be a day later, the following week, the day after Thanksgiving. So
good idea.
Yeah, hopefully, the rest of the panel will be able to join with us. But even if not, it's going to happen because it's going to be crazy. I already. Go ahead.
Yeah, I remember doing a couple of podcasts with you looking at Daniel's DNA results. Oh my God.
Yeah. And I've been putting that video, like in my end cards every week, just so that.
That was a really enjoyable. That was amazing looking at the DNA results and how they just whitewashed everything. It was incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And hey, Doc, you are welcome back anytime. There's not really a lot more DNA coming up, but we will be starting with Janie Liggins, I believe, sometime in December.
Okay.
Possibly. And we're gonna just roll right over to the beginning with Janie Liggins, and so that's where all of it started, and that's where the first DNA was taken. So you certainly, but anytime you're always welcome to come on with us with the panel.
Yes.
So.
Thank you so much. I try and listen to it. Podcast.
what DNA exactly?
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, just from
that. Thank you guys so much.
No, not at all. And next we have Susan. Susan, how are you coming along?
Oh, I'm doing good. I just want to reiterate that I have never, ever believed that every cop that was on that site, everybody from Manitowoc, Calumet, DOJ, DCI, firemen, they were all liars. They were all involved. State troopers. That's the most ridiculous thing. They come out with these just vast, ridiculous
overarching statements.
Yeah. And it's just, it's silly to think that anyone, even the person that came up with the cow theory, whoever that was,
oh my God,
somebody like that is not going to believe that scenario. I'm sorry. It's silly. They put it out there by more than one person is stating that in episode 8, and it's just ridiculous. I'm sorry. So anyway, and I don't believe Fabian's story.
No, there's a huge amount of inconsistencies. Like I said, you're on a pain of you're on a path involving a lot of pain if you just try and rely on the witness statements. They're forever changing. They're forever changing. All you need is one word, and it totally changes the intent of the entire statement.
And what's the first thing a detective does when someone they're interviewing changes their story?
Yep. Correct.
They deduce that they're lying, right?
Correct. And that you're hiding something as well. You're hiding.
Or that too. Or that. Yep. Or, yeah. It was interesting in Fabian's, I think it was his second interview. It was him and Cindy, his wife.
Yes.
And toward the end of it, they got very, they were really they were saying, you know, Earl could have done this the way he is. You know, that whole family is bad. They were sure, you know, that Stephen was guilty, that he had done it with, you know, just speculating, I guess. But yeah, I think that story was embellished a lot.
Yep, 100% correct. 100% correct. All right. Thank you so much, Susan.
Thank you,
no, not at all. Thank you, and thank you for putting those clips together. They were rippers. And next we have I Don't Recall.
Hello. Very good podcast. I
Got fiery.
Yeah.
Got fiery.
Yeah, definitely not boring at all, but they never are. I've been working with Rhonda on Danielle's case. Plus, we've also been learning more about Ashley Garth's case as well. So, keeping busy.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I Don't Recall. And again, guys, thank you so much. We still got a lot of people in chat. Again, thank you so much for your support. And guys, we'll see you again tomorrow. Take care, guys.
And with that said, where's it at? I'm going to try to say it's a pedophile play production, but this thing is not cooperating. It's not cooperating with me.
Did you
I promise I'll say it. Hold on. I don't know why StreamYard just didn't like my end screen here. Maybe it'll find it this time. Here we go. This has been a Foul Play production.